it done.
Hello?
Hello.
This is Big Bo. Coming to you live and direct. So, Jeff just sent us something. Bezos, that is. It is a earnings report. Guess what it said, people? Just take a guess. Some of you have been going to Amazon click-through. They're extending us for another month. We appreciate that. I love each and every one of you for going to the Amazon click-through. But to those of you that didn't, hashtag no love. That's right. YOLO. You only live once. So if you're only going to live once, you need to go to streetwarriorradio.com, click the Amazon click-through, do your Amazon shopping, buy your OVO sweatshirt. That's Drake's company, for some of you that didn't know. And get it sent through your Amazon Prime. And then you help support the podcast, something that you love, something I love. Help us, help you, help me. That's all I'm talking about, people. We also want to thank TNT Security. Bunch of great guys. Great audio equipment. What's so funny over there?
It's funny watching you process information.
I'm not processing it. I just want to make sure I give the right information.
Top-notch tactics.
TNT. That's what I just said.
You got to tell people what the acronym means.
I don't have to tell them anything. You know why? Because they don't listen to me. You know why I know they don't listen to me? They don't go to fucking Amazon click-through.
You just told them they did.
Some of them do.
Oh, God.
You know what? First of all, this is my bit. This is me.
I've invaded your bit. I'm on the bit now.
You know what? I want to thank a company that's near and dear to both of our hearts, Bang Energy Drinks. Without that, JC would not be able to do this show.
I wouldn't function.
No, he wouldn't function at all.
Actually, they're not a sponsor.
They're not fucking not a sponsor at all. I hit them up, though.
Did you?
Yes. Like, what do you think? What do you think I do all day?
That's a very good question.
What do you think I do all day for this? What do you think I do for this company all day? You think I just sit around?
I'm really not sure.
You think I just sit around and do nothing and twiddle my thumbs?
I think you sit around and watch YouTube videos and go down a rabbit hole of conspiracies.
That is half my day, sir. That is half my day. The other half, though, is spent trying to make this company successful.
Oh, right.
So I've sent out actually, Bang hit me back, and they were just like, give us a moment to look at you guys and see what we're working with. They did do that.
Really?
Yes.
They got back to you for real?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, fuckface. You just think I sit around all day?
I fucking love their black cherry vanilla. That stuff is ridiculous.
I like the lemon lime one.
Have I had that one?
I don't know.
Which one is that one?
It's the green can.
Oh, I haven't had that one.
It's a good can. You gotta get that shit online.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, they said they're gonna get back with us. I hope they sponsor us. So I mean that'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. So shout out Bang. You're not a sponsor yet, but you're here. Hopefully they listen to this episode.
We drink your stuff regardless. So.
Oh yeah, regardless of if you sponsor us, we're gonna drink your stuff and so every copy.
Honestly,
in
it's the only energy drink that does not have.
Don't sell them yet.
No.
Don't sell them
I've
yet.
experienced.
Don't sell them yet. Don't do that yet. Don't sell it.
But what if that tips them over the edge?
Don't sell them yet.
All right, whatever.
Because look, you just gave them a taste, and Bang was like, "Oh, we want to hear more," and then I'm like, "Nope."
But you could hear more.
You could hear more Bang Energy Drink. Anyways, Amazon click-through, streetwarriorradio.com, top-notch tactics. Those are our sponsors, and we thank them in advance.
As we like to say, supporting great causes is not only a great way to help others and your community, it's also a great way to help yourself. Now, we here at the Street Warrior Radio podcast encourage people to seek out great organizations that donate the majority of their profits or proceeds to the causes that they're actually trying to help. With that, I want you to take a look at a couple organizations. Humanizing the Badge. Now, Humanizing the Badge is a non-profit organization on a mission to help forge stronger relationships between law enforcement officers and the communities that they serve. They're engaging that mission through community service projects on a national level, providing free, confidential online support for first responders and their families that reach out to deal with the unique stresses of the job, and engage on social media content through their pages and the pages of content creators that are part of their cause. And for example, Mike the Cop, Officer Daniels, Deputies Hookem and Bookem, Deputy Misdemeanor, etc. Great organization. Please go over to humanizingthebadge.com, check them out, and if you're so inclined, please donate. Also, Guardian for Heroes. Guardian for Heroes is an organization that humbly and proudly carries the torch that Chris Kyle, the American Sniper, left and championed the cause to restore hope, renew spirits, and replenish energy for combat veterans transitioning to post-military life. At no cost to the beneficiaries, of the organization, Guardian for Heroes provides health club memberships, individualized programs, personal training, in-home fitness equipment, and life coaching to in-need veterans with disabilities, Gold Star families, and those suffering from post-traumatic stress from combat deployment. They use a variety of different physical and mental fitness techniques to spark conversation and create a source of support for combat veterans. This is an extremely important cause. Go over to guardianforheroes.org, check them out, and if you're so inclined, please donate. You can also go to the streetwarriorradio.com website, and on the left-hand side of every page, there's links to different organizations that we champion. Click on those, do your research. If you're comfortable, please give them a support. Also, if you have an organization that you support that we don't know about, you can contact us at streetwarriorradio.com/contact or on that email at info@streetwarriorradio.com. Give us the information, a link to the organization, and why you think we should know about them and support them, and we will definitely look into it and see what we can make happen. As always, streetwarriorradio.com. This is Street Warrior Radio episode 015 with your hosts Big Bo and me, JC. On this episode, we welcome Bill Blowers of Taprack Tactical, a firearms and tactics training company that he owns and operates. Bill is a retired SWAT cop and a U.S. Army veteran and is a huge source for insight into firearms training, tactics, and leadership. We covered a variety of topics, and this was one of my favorite episodes to record. So sit back, strap in, and help us welcome Bill Blowers to the Street Warrior Radio podcast. Hey, Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Hey, we're doing good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Super happy that you're here. Thanks for clearing time in your schedule to be here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, for sure, man. It's always nice to talk to some coppers.
Yes, absolutely. We apologize for the scheduling snafu and all that fun stuff.
Nah.
That was awesome.
Yep.
Cool. So, hey, I'm going to jump right into it if you're good with that.
Yep.
All right, cool. Hey, so for people out there that that don't know really anything about you or who you are, can you kind of give an idea of a little bit about your background, a little bit about who you are, and kind of highlights of the career and everything?
Yep. So I just retired on February 2nd. Was a cop for 25 and a half years up here in Washington. Prior to that, I was in the Army for 6 years. No super soldier or anything like that. Was just a Cav Scout. From the time I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to be a cop, so the Army was kind of a stopgap to get me to an age where I could legally carry a pistol around, that kind of thing. But I ended up doing 6 years. I was in during the first Gulf War, never deployed. Kind of thought I'd lost my chance there, and so I got the heck out. And at that time, they were basically saying, "Hey, you can, if you want to quit the Army, just let us know." And it's like a 2-week notice, and you can get out. And I was like, "Well, I'm going to test that theory." So I did, and I got out. One of the most efficient things I saw the Army do in my 6 years. But yeah, so I put my shit in, and 2 weeks later, I was testing, got offered a job by a small PD, put in my notice. 2 weeks later, I was out and working for that agency. And then, so I spent about 18 months there. It was a really small department, but it was a good place for me to begin. You get there's obviously there wasn't at that time a lot of calls for service, that kind of shit. Sure. So you get real good at making traffic stops and, doing some of those basic things. And then obviously you're getting calls for service occasionally. But I told my wife, I can't stay here for a career. It's just there's not enough movement side to side and up. Right. If I want to go that route at some point. So I left there, went to work for the organization that I stayed with the entire time, and did some stuff, man. So 7 years Well, 7 years straight up graveyard patrol guy, and then I was 2 years in our street crimes unit. Left that job to go be the full-time SWAT team training coordinator. Back to patrol for a minute, and then I was the agency's training officer for a period of time. Got promoted back to patrol for 5 years, and then ended up ending my career up there as the training supervisor for the last 5, which was a great assignment for me, man. 22 years of that was also in SWAT. We're a part-time team, and so I always, when I was a patrol sergeant in particular, you get called out for missions and different stuff. As a regional SWAT team, I always kind of felt like I was leaving the squad hanging. I'm bailing to go to a different city to do a SWAT thing, kind of a deal. So being the training supervisor was kind of nice in that regard, because I didn't do much training during that time. My job was to supervise it, so it was kind of nice. I could pretty much always just bail out if I had to, without feeling guilty about it.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm guessing that with your law enforcement as a trainer, right? That was probably a natural transition into post career with TAPRAC, right?
Yeah, for sure. The training piece, man. So that kind of started as a corporal in the Army. And once you hit the senior spec 4 or corporal or any of that kind of shit, that you pretty much start teaching guys how to do the soldier skill stuff. And so it's kind of something that I was like, hey, and I kind of dig this, whatever. I got and doing the cop thing. And then I started teaching. A buddy of mine got a hold of me and asked if I would help teach the basic SWAT course for the state of Washington. And so I started doing that for a little bit. I did that for about 8 years. And then during that time, guys would be like, hey, man, this is obviously every SWAT cop in Washington, some from Oregon. We used to get them from Canada before ITAR and all that kind of crap. But they guys would hit you up and say, hey, man, you taught this little block of instruction during the SWAT course. I taught team leader. Can you come up and give us an expanded class on that? So that's kind of what started me going down, the professional, I use a little air shit, training realm. Sure. Did that, and then did a side company with my buddy that got me teaching at basic. We had both gone to high school together. He was a longtime SWAT guy as well. And so we started doing that together, and then, of course, shit happens and things change, and so we disbanded the old company, and I started TAPRAC in, I believe it was 2006, and have been doing it by myself ever since. So, yeah, that's kind of that. The SWAT shit for sure is my passion, and so that makes it easy. And nice to be retired and doing what you like, so, you know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So what was your time like on street crimes? Did you enjoy it? I know it was short. You said it was only about 2 years. What kind of experience did you get in that 2 years? What kind of experience did you have, and what experience did you gain from doing street crimes?
Really hard to hear, man. It's like muffler. You're like far away from the mic.
Really? Let's see.
Let's try that.
That work?
A little bit better, yeah.
A little bit better. All right, my question for you was, when you worked street crimes, I know you said it was about 2 years. How was that for you? What kind of experience did you get from that, and what kind of experience, did you gain from doing that? Yeah, so
I think that after 7 years, and it could have been a combination of stuff, right? So it could have been just straight street time, might have been the fact that it was all graveyard time, whatever. At the end of that 7th year, I was ready for a change. I'd handled enough DVs and that kind of shit. And so I wanted out of that. And what we call PROAC, which is basically a street crimes unit, there was a position open up, put in for it, and got fortunate and got the assignment. And I dug it, man. It was nice, right? It was nice not to be tied to a radio, all plainclothes shit. At the time I went in, we were exploring a bay car program, so we got a bay car, and I ended up getting that thing to manage and run and do some stuff. So setting that thing out, we were doing prostitution and John stings. Street level dope buying. I mean, we had, I'd buy money for both small amounts of dope and then buy money for other criminal enterprises, fencing, and that kind of jazz. So it was kind of cool to be able to, bounce your way through a bunch of different things and gain some experience. And as a street copper, back then anyway, if it was something that was going to go to a warrant, in my organization, it was all, you just handed that crap off. You know what I mean? Detectives would write warrants and do all that kind of jazz. So I didn't have much experience on writing warrants and doing that. And the street crimes unit gave me that. So that part was pretty cool. I got there's a couple cases, things that stick out in your head. And my time in that street crimes unit, we had a serial rapist that was going around. He was raping women between Tacoma and the city of Kent, which is where I retired from.
Oh, wow.
And I can't remember how many victims, whatever it was, but I got put on that caper to assist the real detectives with just trying to do street contact shit and, see who knew whatever. And we cut a break. Tacoma patrol cop, dynamite job. He snatched my man up and was able to connect some dots in his head. Go, bing! I think this is that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But writing paper on that to go serve the warrant on the dude's house and property and establish some of that was kind of a cool case. And then, of course. A local cop was killed in the line of duty. A guy named Steve Underwood from a local agency. And he was contacting some street gang members. One of them, for whatever reason, thought Steve was going to try to put the pinch on him. So as soon as Steve stepped out of the car, he murdered Steve, shot him in the head, and they took off.
Jesus Christ.
And so my boss at the time, this was not my organization. We were just lending help to a smaller agency. And
sure.
Kind of my boss came and said, hey, man, you've been in the street crimes a bit for a minute. You got some good street contacts. We're going to assign you directly to this case. And so me and my partner at the time, amongst a bunch of other people, I'm not trying to say I cracked the code on that sucker, but, it was an all-hands case to get a cop killer in custody.
Absolutely.
I'm really,
for sure.
really proud of the work that me and my partner did on that, tracking down somebody that was present when it occurred. You can call them whatever the hell you want to,
right.
Fellow crook, whatever the hell. And then getting to him, getting statements, doing all that, though, it was pretty, I guess, nice to be involved with the apprehension and ultimately the incarceration of a cop killer. He's a shitbird anyway, so I mean, just in jail.
Oh, absolutely.
To put him in jail, that's a benefit to everybody. So
yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, right. So you gained a ton of experience. It sounds like that sounds really totally awesome. Gosh, when you were dealing with street crimes, you dealt with the prostitution and the serial rapists and, dealing with cop killers and stuff. Like, how do you get over that? How do you put some of that in the back of your mind, some of that ugly, dirty, nasty stuff that you're dealing with, and move on to the next case?
Man, sometimes I wonder if I'm not a little bit of a weirdo. And
I think we all are.
Yeah, that's just cops in general. I mean, the stuff, and it's not that I'm inhuman, but I think that there's, I'm trying to phrase this the right way. I have been very successful at turning it off. Does that make sense?
Sure.
My commute home, I turn it off, and I came home and I tried to be a good husband and father of my children and do the best I could with it. And then on the way back into work, you turn it back on. And I don't know if you can be a cop for 25 years anywhere in America and not have some calls that you think back on and go, man, I could have handled that better. I wish I would have done a better job with that, or,
Yeah, I don't think you can. I mean, I don't think you're talking about 25 years. That's a long time to do any job, period. But this job in particular, which is so different from every other job in the world, there's no way that, based on the stuff that we see and we experience on, sometimes a daily basis, you can't block 100% of that out.
Right.
It's gonna filter through. Did any of that? Was there ever a time where any of that stuff kind of filtered over to the home life? For you?
Not in my case, it did not manifest itself like most people would think. Where I was like, depressed, or if I was, angry and this and that. What it ended up doing to me, particularly as an early, and there's a couple of variables for this too. But I think the big thing for me was I got addicted to the chase. And I remember being on time off, like, man, what are the boys doing right now? And if I took vacation, I wonder if my squad's getting into something and I'm not there. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so just signing up for a ton of overtime to continue to chase the jazz and try and lock up criminals and do a good job and all that kind of stuff. That probably was my my issue with just trying to be there all of the time. And the downside of that one too is to some degree you don't recognize, right? You're like, well, man, I'm making all this overtime money, and so I'm doing something for my family, but you don't consider the fact that your family ain't seen you in 4 days. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Eventually, man, my wife, she's like, enough of this shit. And, overtime should be fun money. And, if you're going to work pop 15, 20 hours or some shit like that, then there should be a reason for that. And we need to start just controlling ourselves with the guaranteed money. But if we want to go on a vacation or something, let's have a purpose behind you working the overtime, not just because you're off that day. And so I kind of transitioned away from working a ton of overtime. Somewhere around the 10-year mark. And then SWAT was giving me plenty of overtime anyway, so it wasn't a big deal.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Was there ever a point in your career where you kind of got burned out? You were just like, you know what, I'm just done with this crap. What was the moment for you that helped you get motivated again?
So that's funny, right? It's funny you asked that. That 7-year period, we work overtime and then we have off-duty jobs, right? So you work a high school football game, it's off-duty, whatever.
Sure.
One of the off-duty jobs was there was a local grocery store chain, and they were open 24/7. So they wanted some coppers in there at nighttime, and I don't remember the exact, but I think it was somewhere you got up at 3 o'clock in the damn morning. You were basically the anti-robbery guy or whatever, but it was just boring as shit because nobody's coming in there, right?
Right.
And so I positioned myself right near the one door that was still working, which happened to be right near the damn magazine rack. So to relieve some of that boredom, I'd stand there, flying the colors and read whatever the hell magazines were out there. But I was reading an article, and I don't remember what magazine it was, but it was specifically about cops. And it was a study they had done and a chief of police somewhere had agreed to be part of this test sample. And essentially what they found out was that for cops at the 7-year mark, that's when they're either going to make a determination to stay as a career and be productive during that career, or they're going to leave law enforcement, or they get so damn burnt out by that 7th year that they basically become a retired on-duty kind of copper that sits behind the Costco and doesn't want to go to calls no more. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And the remedy they had for it was to take a year of paid leave. And so you could do whatever the hell you wanted in there, right? So I'd say, hey, JC, you just went over your 7-year anniversary, so you got the next year off. We're going to pay you still. During that time, you can go to school, you can go be a framer, you can go roof houses, you can go, shuck oysters, whatever the hell you want to do. And then at the end of the year, you got to make a decision. Are you going to stay a police officer, or are you going to be done with it? So this guy they had done this thing for 3 years, man. And they were able to determine the 7-year mark was about right for most cops. And that at the end of it, most cops came back, but there were several that the break away from the job was sufficient for them to come to grips with the fact that maybe they weren't meant for the job from the outset, or that the rigors of the job had taken a toll that they didn't want to repay again. And so they punched out. So it was interesting for me right at the 7-year mark, where honestly, I was kind of like, man, I need to find a change. And so, like I said, part of the reason I went to the agency that I retired from is because they were a bigger agency. There was plenty of places to move around and assignments you could do and other shit. So that's part of why I went to the street crimes. It sounded like fun, number one, but it also gave me a break from patrol. And so, I think those things, man, one of my mentors, a really good guy, he had told me early on in my career, man, hey, dude, take advantage of what you have here. So bounce. Every 5 years, be bouncing into a new assignment. Even if it's something that you think that you might not like, it might give you some value 10 years from now. So for instance, forgery detective, super fun, exciting, all the adventure and shit you'd ever want in one job, right?
Yeah, I think tons of fun in forgery.
Yeah.
Tons of fun in that.
Job's over, but it's a break from something. It's a new challenge. It's new shit for you to learn.
That's true.
And in all of those, transient assignments I've had over the years, in all cases, the time flew by, right? All of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I'm just getting my feet under me and I'm at the 4-year mark kind of a thing. And so it's pretty easy to do that and continue to reinvigorate yourself throughout a career.
So what about, cops that find themselves in that position that work for smaller agencies that maybe don't have special units and things like that for them to transition to, where it's just literally patrol, and your only way out of patrol is maybe, if you're lucky, if you have a CID or something, and somebody retired or died, and you can move into that. Do you have any advice for those people? Because that's the majority of law enforcement in the country is these small little departments, and those guys, and some of them work in real bad areas, some of them work in areas where it's, they don't see anything, most of the time. But
land of milk and honey.
Yeah, but what do those people do? How do those people get over that?
You're asking me to speculate because I haven't done it. So I started in that agency. I was the 9th cop in that initial place that I worked. And so, you're during the shift, you're the only guy on. I mean, there's like an hour of overlap, and then you're by yourself in the town for the rest of the night. So I guess some of the stuff, man, with that concept as well, though, it kind of tripped me out when I went to the bigger agency. All right, and I hadn't worked at that small place very long, and it certainly wasn't a high crime area or anything like that. But obviously, every place is getting crime. That's why you got cops.
Of course.
Yeah. And so there was a chunk of it where that initial agency was more of a generalist concept. So if you took a robbery case, then that's your case to work because there was no detective division to hand it off to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think some of that being dogged after your shit, recognizing that nobody else is going to be there to help you solve those crimes and take care of victims and do all that stuff, potentially gives you opportunities too, right? Where you go to the boss and say, hey man, I need to go to investigation school as a patrol officer because I'm investigating these felony crimes. I mean, there's just, there's nobody else here versus the agency I went to where as a patrol snuffy, if I said, hey man, I want to go to major crimes investigation, they'd have been like, well, why? You know what I mean?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
You put the crime scene tape up and run the log, bro, and the detectives will show up and handle that shit. And so to get some of those advanced classes, if it's a topic you're interested in, is harder in the bigger agencies sometimes. And that's, I'm generally speaking, not specifically. So I don't know, man. It's and with that too, man. I have good friends at the agency I just left that have been patrolmen for life. And they dig it. They're just guys that love the patrol work. So I'm not saying that patrol is, I drag everybody down or, even that it would have done that to me if I had stayed in it. I may have been able to reinvigorate myself with something else. But that's what it took for me, man. I needed to bounce around and have different assignments and different challenges and that kind of thing. The only constant thing for me over the 25 years of SWAT, I got into it pretty quickly and spent 22 years on the team. So.
Was your team, was it your agency's team or was it like a regional team or how'd that work?
Yes. When I started, it was we were a standalone team of 16 guys, and the team the agency had a SWAT team since 1978, but smaller. So yeah, 16 dudes. We did that for about 5 years, and then within the area, I mean, it's all urban sprawl where I came from, right? It's just everybody's city borders touch each other all the way through the county.
Yeah.
And so we were already doing a bunch of shit like a drug task force that we were sharing resources amongst the agencies. Our civil disturbance unit was regional. WTO and some other things proved the concept of needing more bodies versus a 10-man civil disturbance unit kind of a shit.
Sure.
Amongst other things that were going on regionally. So the chiefs were already meeting and talking about all the other regional units and shit. And then there was a 3-agency regional team operating my team. Another agency had just incorporated, so they were trying to start a team up, but they were not operational yet, and a bunch of crap just kind of came together. In the chiefs just in a meeting one day to say, hey, this is dumb. Let's all combine resources, money, and shit like that, and just come up with a bigger team that's more capable than any of our standalone elements. So we did that in 2000. And we became a regional team. It was huge for, I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, right? We went from a 60-man team to, at that point, a 42-man team. So we had 2 essentially 21-man teams. One team was on, one team was off as far as call-outs and shit.
Sure.
That's less. My agency then, of course, is only putting 7 guys on the team instead of 16. Yeah. So the budget for 16 is now paying for only 7, which is, was huge. It gave me more opportunities to go to training and send guys our equipment stuff. Got taken care of pretty quickly, blah, blah, blah. And then we pared down in each 6 agencies, each agency putting 6 guys on the team. So then we ended up at 36 guys. So my budget ended up increasing over the years, but it was always, it started off with a 16-man budget, and then I'm paying for 6 guys. So I think that the, super big agency, it makes, so yeah, by all means, man, have a standalone team and all that stuff. But, the mid-sized to small agency, you're better off with the regional concept if you can work out all of the command egos and bugs and shit like that, where, agency A says, when you're in my town, we do it like this, and agency, right. I mean, fuck all that. It's you got to come to grips with the fact that it's a single team that is servicing X number of populations, and I think we did that very well. So right from the outset, man, we became a regional team. The first team commander was the right guy for the job. A dude named Bob Lee. Got great respect for the guy. He ended up being a chief of police later on. Wow. And he saw that, knew what was coming, and he did a great job of managing the head sheds and essentially talking them into the fact that we were everybody's fucking team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So knock it off with the command stupidness and lack of common sense. We're going to fucking come in and do the best job we can regardless of what jurisdiction I'm from.
Yeah. So for the patrol guy out there, a girl who's, 3 or 4 years in and they're thinking about going to SWAT school, or they're thinking about joining SWAT in their police department or a region agency, what is some advice you could give them?
Well, the assignment is, we just kind of talked about me working all the overtime and, doing all that shit, which affects your family time. And obviously SWAT is one of those assignments where you don't necessarily get to pick when the heck you're getting called out. So whatever the training tempo is for the team you're looking at, and then the call out tempo, you need to really consider that shit, and because it will affect you. It's going to affect your home life. There's no question about it. Yeah. And the team is relying on you to be there, right? So if my my phone starts clanging away and there's an incident right now, well, then I'm fucking going. I mean, it's if I will not respond like that to every single call out, regardless of birthdays and holidays and all hours of the night and day, whatever the shit it is, then I need to quit, because the team needs that body to do something. So I guess the commitment piece, you need to come to grips with that from the outset. And then again, each team is different, right? I mean, the title of SWAT, there is no national standard for that. So if the team has a culture of physical fitness and you ain't there yet, then you better get your shit together and not be the last man coming in on stuff. If the team is shooting hard, then you better be ready to put in some personal time to fix your own issues and go to training on your own and do all that kind of crap. So I guess the biggest deal is just commitment and dedication to that unit. The same as anything else, though, right? I mean, if you were going to a detective divisions and you get put in persons crime, well, your ass is going to respond when there's a homicide. You're going to respond when there's a major assault. You're going to, because your mates are counting on you. That's why the fuck you're in there. So
yeah,
that kind of crap.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that do you think it just takes a certain person to be there? And, how can you tell when you were training if that person wasn't going to make the cut? Like, could you see it early on, or did it take a couple of days in training to realize this person ain't cut out to be SWAT?
Man, the commitment piece, and it ain't like a guy gets hired and then he tries out for SWAT, right? I mean, most agencies are requiring a certain number of years of service before you can apply for the job.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think some of that commitment, dedication, work ethic, all that crap is already going to be known to the team that you're applying for, right? So that part is there. As far as dudes, the team is going to be specific, right? So we put our guys would come on there. They were on probation for a year. During that time, they were assigned a mentor, which is essentially the same as an FTO. So he's watching the dude in training and then giving him written feedback at the end of each training cycle. And then the TLs are discussing all of the new guys at every single the team leader meeting every single month and saying, how's Blowers doing? Well, he's kind of a dumbass. Here's the stupid shit he's doing. And so you kind of get just like dudes right now that, I don't know what size agencies you fellas work for, but I know every damn cop in the city that I worked in. We were only 160. And so as a training supervisor, guys would get out of the academy and they'd hit the road and start working through FTO. Well, you'd hear very quickly, what guy was struggling and what he was struggling about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the same thing was true on SWAT, man. So I would know early on if a guy's PT was less than optimal and whether or not he was doing shit to correct that. You would hear very quickly whether the guy's shooting capability is standards. Was he meeting team standards? Was he struggling? Was he a hit and miss guy? And then just with the TTPs, how we were conducting business for the different types of missions. Well, I'm seeing that every single month in training and watching it do. So you could kind of get a feel for it, man. But we removed dudes for a variety of reasons over the years. It wasn't like a one, this one thing seemed to catch a lot of fellas. It was just different stuff. Different reasons, that kind of a thing. And The easy ones to quantify, of course, are PT, right? So here's the team standard. You didn't do it, therefore your PT sucks, right? Here's the shooting standard. You can't do that.
Sure, yeah.
Suck. It's the decision making stuff. So you're showing a dude, here's how we conduct whatever the shit, right? Covert clearing. And you're teaching them up on that crap where you can see if the guy is getting it or not. But it's hard sometimes to quantify that. Big Bo, you decided to go left. Well, in that scenario, I would have went right, and so I'm going to beat up on you because you went left. But the end result was it wouldn't fucking matter either way. You know what I mean? They're both good decisions. So you got to kind of give dudes room to work some of that stuff too, without being so rigid or watching a guy and going, "Well, I would have went right there." Well, who cares what you would have fucking done if the result was the same?
Right?
Then leave it the fuck alone, kind of a deal.
Well, I think egos play into that a lot, right? So you have, I'm right, I've got this, I know, and I think it all really comes down to leadership, and leadership being able to detach themselves and step back and go, you know what? All right, let's try it your way. Yep. You want to do it your way? If the result's the same, you know what? Let's do it. Yep. Why not? If it doesn't work, we'll critique it, we'll move on, and we'll fix what doesn't work, and we'll work on what does work. Yep. And I think that's across the board though, in law enforcement in general, and probably in business too. And I think now you've been running TAPRAC since 2006, you said. So I think probably the same principles applied in probably in business too. If you're looking at it from a person that's outside of law enforcement and looking at their own situation. I think a lot of those concepts are the same, in my opinion. But so looking at departments we work for a smaller department. I went from a real big agency in the Dallas area to a smaller department, and the contrast, the basic job's the same, right? But the contrast of how things work are vastly different in some areas. So in our area, we have to rely on a county SWAT team if we have any critical incidents. But my issue is when you look at the time it takes to put a county team together and get everybody deployed and get them to the site, make a plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you sometimes have critical incidents that are spiraling and moving and are very fluid. So do you think that because there's more responsibility on a department, or when you have multiple small, let's say you have an area with a bunch of smaller departments that frequently work together, you have obviously different departments have different training, different departments have different policies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But from your perspective as a trainer, and now having trained I'm sure a vast variety of officers from different agencies, is leadership failing cops when it comes to firearms training? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is it something that the civilian or the private training market needs to be more involved in, or is it something that the leadership needs to take more control and ownership in? Because obviously in law enforcement we have our standards. The Supreme Court has said we have to have these certain things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, based on case law, but oftentimes that's not actually translated into reality, right? So where are we failing, and where are we failing, and how, and in your opinion, how do we move forward?
So I think there's it's a tough one, right? And I think that so I've never been a damn chief of police, right? I don't know what kind of pressures and rigors and managing the budget, and what's the mayor is now doing this, and city councilman A is that, and local minority group B wants to get in your ass about this and everything, and so having not lived that and having to manage and juggle all of those different things, it's tough to say whether or not leadership is failing, right? But here's what I would say on the topic of firearms specifically. There are obviously, so in my state, we do not have a state qualification course for police officers. Each agency can establish and set their own standards. Now,
sure, yeah, same thing.
Okay, so when you go through the basic academy, obviously the academy has their firearms program, and you got to pass their shit to graduate and get your peace officer certification.
Right. But
once you leave there, you can do it how you want. And I know of other states that say, well, that's bullshit. If you're a cop in this state, then you should be meeting this standard. And so I'm going to use that as a springboard, right? And the problem that I see with where the state is controlling it, the standard is then set for the lowest common denominator.
Correct.
Right. That's set for the very, very small department with very, very small budget and time and, all of those things. What can they achieve to keep a cop on the street in that small town? So then you go to another organization that maybe I haven't seen a police department yet that's fat with staffing, right? Everybody's always like, fuck, we're short.
Oh, it's hurt.
Yep.
It's tough all around right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so when you start, okay, well, we still have a mission, right? We got to run the street. So how the hell am I going to pull X number of cops off the road to try and get them additional firearms training or to increase standards, do what I want to do? And so some of that becomes problematic if you're still focused on the mission. And I think that influences are what they are, right? So as a chief of police, I want to go to the city council meeting that is being filmed on, local city TV or local county TV, and, people are in there and that kind of shit, and talk to them about response time and say, well, over the last 6 months, we've been averaging a 39-second response time to all calls for service. Well, the citizens go, well, fuck, that's awesome, right? That's great.
Right.
The downside of that is because you've had so many cops on the street to achieve that, none of those cops have been to any training. And so then, it's a fuse burning, man. You know what I mean? At some point,
Sure.
We'll hit the bomb. And then it's all kinds of finger pointing about, the individual cop is a douche, or the individual cop didn't do what he needed to do. And so in that regard, I think leadership does fail us to some degree. And so maybe rather than speak generically, man, here's a couple things, right? And at the point that you get a gold belt buckle and stars on your collar and shit like that, right? You're at the command level in a police department. Yeah. I think that as both of you guys are working cops, right? You're not commanders or that kind of shit.
Yes, sir. No.
So would you guys agree that the likelihood, with some rare exceptions, but the likelihood of those guys being in enforcement is pretty much done?
Correct.
Yes. I mean, they're managing administrative tasks for the organization and doing shit and doing all the things they should be doing, like going to the meeting and going to lunch with the councilman and leveraging support for the organization and doing it for the right reasons. Those are all good things, right? Hey, man,
absolutely.
Give my boys more money, give my guys better equipment, give my guys right, and whatever the shit it is. If that's the goal, then that's all. I'm down like James Brown. The problem is my chief of police has to qualify at the same level and frequency as the most junior patrol officer in my organization because he is a cop. Right. But now you're talking about a guy that is doing, and make no mistake, dude, my chief is very supportive of the firearms program. He's always one of the first guys to get up there and get qualified. And, he is not a guy got a kick in the butt to come in and, hey, boss, I don't want to put off the list of who hasn't qualified and see your name on it. You know what I mean? He understands he's got to lead by example in that regard. But my chief is not a great shooter. So he can pass the qualification course, and like I said, and I appreciate my man getting up there and doing everything that he did to support the program and so forth. But I'm also now, my program gets stifled to some degree because I can't continue to raise standards when the one that matters, right, the one that's going to get you loss of job or remedial training or whatever, is the bar is so damn low. So there was a point where I said, hey, if you got gold shit on your belt buckle and stars and galaxies on your collar and all that kind of crap, I want to put together a admin qualification course. And because you're not in enforcement, you guys aren't going out and handling DVs and making traffic stops and doing all that shit. Now you still got to carry your gun and whatever the fuck, and that's all cool. But let's make this thing super simple. You do it once a year, and at the point you get promoted to, in my organization, to commander and above, that's your qualification course. And then everybody, sergeant and below, there's going to be a different standard and different frequency. So you guys will end up saving the organization some bullets. You're going to save some time. And then you're going to get time back that you might need to practice and whatever to achieve that higher standard because you have an enforcement or you're not in enforcement. So you have this command standard.
Oh, wow.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, I thought so, right? And so I proposed this thing and I'm getting some eyebrows going up and dudes they're thinking themselves, wow, man, that kind of makes sense, right? And then, God damn it, if leading by example doesn't come up and bite you in the ass, right? And so my chief goes, well, that's fucked up because if JC can't qualify and we try everything we can, remediate him, send him outside instruction, this, that, everything, and ultimately he can't pass the standard, then I'm going to terminate him as a police officer in this organization. And how the fuck do I look him in the eye and say, I'm terminating you for lack of firearm skill when I'm over here shooting a 2-round course, you know what I mean, hitting a piece of cardboard at 2 feet in 3 minutes.
That's a valid point, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep, I can see both
it
sides
is a valid
of the coin.
point, but that's what I'm saying is it stifles the ability for the organization to grow across the spectrum
Sure.
because those dudes don't come to training, and so it's a catch-22.
Right.
Right. So I loved him for the answer, right? Because I think he's right. If you're going to lead by example, then goddamn it, set the standard, right?
Right.
But I also hated him for it because I was like, God dang it, man. I want cops to be able to win gunfights, to if they are forced to use deadly force, that all of those bullets go where they need to go versus out in the community somewhere. We're stopping criminal behavior quickly so that there isn't an opportunity for a guy to get hurt later into the gunfight where it would have been stopped potentially, 30 seconds ago with better marksmanship.
Sure.
And so it frustrates you a little bit. So there's that, man. To some degree, I think as coppers and probably at some level, rightfully so, we start to believe the hype where, police are experts with firearms. Well, we know that's not true.
No,
Some cops are experts with firearms, right? Other cops are really experts at talking to little kids who have been traumatized at bad criminal scenes. Other cops are really good at pulling out the magnifying glass and going and finding the clues. Other cops are good at this and that, the other thing, right? Everybody doesn't become a cop because they want to go shoot guns and shit.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But we start to believe that we're good, right? And so then for guys that are poor shooters or mediocre shooters, and I say, hey man, go to some outside training, go shoot some competition, go see what's up. Sometimes they'll go to that and they'll have a good time and everything's hunky-dory. And then other times they go there and somebody will say, hey, what do you do for a living, man? And then he says, I'm a cop. And then that guy goes, well, my grandma's uncle's brother was stopped on traffic one time and the cop was a dick. I don't know. What the fuck you telling me for, dude?
Right? That has nothing to do with me.
And there's a bunch of guns around now.
Maybe he started the whole shit. What are you going to say to that crap?
Right.
Or, did you see what happened in whatever the hell place, right? Those cops were the fuck out of line and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are you fucking with me today? I'm
right. Yeah.
Cops. You know what I mean? Just leave me the fuck alone, man. Let me shoot and do what I need to do. And so we start to separate ourselves from people because, we start thinking, hey, what? They don't know the rigors of the job. They don't understand police procedure. They don't understand X, Y, and Z. And you get tired of it, trying to answer questions or explain to dudes, which particularly dudes that are just rigid, right? No matter what you tell them, they ain't going to hear nothing about it.
Sure. So, you're always going to be wrong because you're a fucking cop.
So going to if it is not a closed cop course, then I don't see a lot of cops at open training. Now, always exceptions, right? Guys that just shoot well and they want to get after it and whatever the hell they're there, and maybe they just keep a low profile. I mean, shit, I told people forever I worked for Boeing. I didn't even tell them I was a cop because I didn't want to get into bullshit conversations about whatever. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, of course.
So there's that. With my organization, one of the things, so as the training supervisor, I'm controlling kung fu, fast driving, and gun shooting shit, right? And our DT guy, I think he did a really good job propelling that program forward and working into briefing training, not just in-service training. So guys will show up certain days, and they'll do some type of defensive tactics-based shit for 30 minutes, but it's more frequent, right? So the frequency is important. Right. On the driving side, when we get guys down to high-speed EVOC, doing all that kind of crap, but we also instituted annual PID training and then a short course where your fastest speed is probably 30 miles an hour, but I'm putting cone lanes that are so damn tight to the car that it feels faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And that's more about vehicle dynamics and loading suspension and doing all of that stuff. Even though the speeds are low, it's the same concepts and principles, so there's a frequency thing again, and guys get better. On the gun shooting side, we used to qualify 4 times a year. I talked to the boss, said, hey, I want to reduce that to 2 qualifications a year, but I want to keep the other 2 days as mandatory training where we're going to pick up something when the guys come up. It's not just going and shoot the qual course, which everybody here can pass. It's trying to improve skill set and maybe open up something that makes them want to train more than what we got.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so that seemed to help a little bit. And then the last thing was instituting, as a guy that's going out and providing pistol, rifle training and that kind of stuff, I thought, man, is there a reason why within the organization we're not just doing our own 2-day pistol and 2-day carbine classes that are in addition to their normal or initial training and qualification? And so I started instituting that. And initially I was teaching them and then bringing one of the other firearms instructors up as my AI. and dudes would just sign up like it was an outside class. Well, there's no tuition, there's no lodging, there's no air, there's no nothing kind of a deal. And they just got duty assigned to the ranch for 2 days, and then we can actually make some headway versus over an hour of training. Does that make sense? I get them.
For sure.
So I get 20 hours to affect the organism, and hopefully they come out the backside a little bit better, a little bit more motivated, a little bit more excited about getting good with the guns, so that they want to go up to the range and shoot more often, kind of a deal. And those programs have been extremely successful. We've maxed them out every single time that we've run them. And so I think there's ways around it. But the key to this, and a long ass answer to your question, is it's leadership, right?
Sure.
And that is my boss for the big boss on down supported all those initiatives. You frame them in the right way. You get after it and talk about, hey, well, here's what it's going to cost. Here's what you get back. Here's how you're going to schedule it. And knowing some of that shit, when you go propose those things, a lot of times bosses will be very supportive of it. And there are dudes that just don't want to shoot, man. Just guys that they just don't want to do it. So they're not going to sign up for those elective classes. My point to the boss was, okay, so no matter what, if you try to force that guy to come to additional firearms training, it's not going to be valuable because he doesn't have any passion for it, right? No matter what you do, he's not going to enjoy himself. He's going to sit there and mope around and just be a douche the whole class. So let's quit focusing on that guy, and at least some of his mates will have gone to this additional training. So when the bad thing happens, you're going to have a higher trained percentage of cops that can get out and get down, and maybe that guy just handles traffic control.
Yeah. Which I think is probably realistically the best you could hope for, is to have a percentage based rather than, because you're not going to get everybody on board.
Absolutely, man. And I think that's so we started this regional SWAT team shit, and like I said, 6 guys from my agency, every agency put guys on the team. So we had the chief previous to the one that I retired under. He started a unit called the Neighborhood Response Team, and basically busted the city up into sectors, and then they had officers assigned to those sectors, so they would go talk to like the apartment managers, low-income housing people, and be their representative to the police department, where it was more face-to-face and more personal, right? You didn't call 911 if you had some dumb emergency. You would call me directly since I'm your sector dude, right? And if you're, hey, I got this tenant who's a dickhead, then my job is to go work with you, try to come up with strategies. How do we get him out? Whatever the case might be. And then also, if that guy's one of those dudes that, he leaves apartment A, goes to a different sector and rents an apartment in sector B, I'm tracking that dude and going, hey, sector B guy, don't let that dude rent in your place, because he got booted out of this place for being a douche, and essentially drumming out there's nowhere for him to rent anymore. So anyway, amongst other shit, right, that unit's doing. So initially, my team was pretty busy, and all the guys working patrol were constantly getting pulled off their shifts, and the squads just don't dig it, right? That guy's always gone. He's either at training or missions. Sergeants hated it for scheduling, all that kind of shit. So I go to the chief and I said, hey, chief, this new unit you're doing, that's SWAT dudes. Let's put the SWAT guys in there. It takes them out of the patrol division, gets them away from the scheduling headaches and hassles that go with that. Just a ton of benefits for the organization. And he said, hey, Bill, I appreciate you trying to, solve that problem, but here is the problem. There are dudes in this organization that would be better neighborhood response team officers than some of the SWAT guys. And if I make it a SWAT-specific assignment, there are going to be dudes that would be really, really good SWAT guys that ain't interested in that neighborhood response team shit, so they just don't apply because they don't want to do that full-time job. So I end up potentially losing on both sides of the argument. And I thought, man, he's pretty fucking smart, because that's absolutely correct, right? And the same thing applies to the shooting shit. Some dudes like to do it, some guys don't. And the guys that don't, I don't know if you can do anything other than hit them with a fucking standard, and they got past that, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think that... Honestly, I think that's all you can do, because you can't force somebody to be motivated.
Nope. But I think the other part of this, man, is so as an example, I think that I was I certainly put a ton of effort into trying to be a good SWAT team leader. Okay, and on my team, it didn't rank, don't matter. So I was a team leader before I was a sergeant. But my dedication to the team, to that specific assignment, the love of what I was doing, all that shit made me be very, very, very proactive in trying to improve the team. As a patrol sergeant, that same love wasn't there. And I don't think I was a terrible patrol sergeant, but I probably wasn't as good as I could have been if I would have had the same level of passion. Does that make sense?
I get it 100%.
Absolutely.
Same thing goes with police work, man. There is a dude that is the best goddamn dare officer ever because he loves the assignment and feels like he's really doing something to make a change. And if you put me in that assignment, I would suck at it because I wouldn't be there. You know,
Sure.
So some of this shit, right? We talk about, well, you know, the guy's not motivated. Well, is it that, or is it just that he doesn't have passion for what the hell you're talking about? I mean, come on, dude. He's a child sex crimes detective. That shit would drive me. I don't know if I could do that.
Oh, I
can. Yeah, I'd go fucking batty after the first case.
Nope, can't. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, man, that's a career ender from.
Not
that
my
ain't
interest.
that ain't some shit I'd have passion for.
No,
right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Right. So the dude that's really, really good at that shit, but don't shoot so good, do you want to replace him?
Yeah.
No, because he's really, really good at that thing, right? Now, you could say, well, not shooting so well is a liability. Well, he's meeting the department's minimum standard, which isn't horrible, right? And he's really damn good at managing these fucked up crimes. So, goddamn it, bless his heart, let him go do his damn thing.
Yeah, let him do it.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But you see that, though. You see that in organizations where you have somebody that's really good at a particular job. They do it for a certain period of time, and somebody comes in and goes, you know, it's time for a change.
Yeah, that person would be well suited.
Yeah,
in
we're
this
going to put
division.
you now in patrol, and I have a friend that just happened to, at another organization where he, detective, and that was his forte, and that's what he loved doing, and he was doing like major crimes and stuff. Had a lot of great cases, and he had a super passion for it. Came in one day, and we're like, you know what, you're back on patrol next week, and he's just like, fuck my life.
Yep.
And he's completely demotivated. I mean, how could you blame a person like that?
Yeah. Do we get? Yeah, man. Same thing. We got 5-year rotations. So you can, if you go into whatever a specialty assignment, it's 5 years, and then you can apply for a year extension. And then if nobody else is interested for your job, then you can retest for your own position, kind of a thing. But we've had several dudes, that have been that. I mean, I always thought, man, what a waste of fucking talent. You spent all that money, all the experience, all that shit just to get a new dude in. The flip of that, though, is going back to that 7-year patrol guy that's thinking, man, I need an opportunity to get the fuck out of this so I don't burn out. And it ain't ever there because they're all filled up with senior guys. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
I don't claim to be the dude that has the answer to all this shit.
Oh, I don't think any of us are.
Yeah,
I think, but it's a topic in law enforcement that needs to happen. I mean, it's a topic that needs to be discussed because you got a lot of cops right now, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard for agencies to hire people. It's hard for agencies to keep people. There's not as much interest in the job as or getting into the job as there was, I think probably several years ago.
Sure.
And candidates are not, is I don't know if they're as good as they used to be, or if there's just many more shitbirds applying now than there was before. But it's hard, and it's hard to keep people motivated. And the answer for that from a leadership perspective, I think there are some answers for it just on a base level, but on an organization level, I don't know that the answer is that easy. But that being said, and I just want to,
I'd be a millionaire.
Yeah, I want to clarify something real quick before I get beat up. So, because I will, when we're talking about firearms training standards, so in Texas, the agency can change. So the regulatory agency for Texas, TCOL, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, they do have a minimum standard for firearms training. This is the base level, but agencies can play with that and move it around and make, as long as they don't go below a certain standard. So I just want to clarify that real quick because I will get emails on that.
Yes,
on that one. I forgot to, in a past podcast, I forgot to mention that. A felon, a convicted felon or whatever for a nonviolent felony, after 5 years can own a firearm again for home defense. And I forgot to mention that. And man, I got beat up like motherfucker for that one. So
yeah, people are quick to correct us.
So looking at this is a question I've asked a lot of guests because I like the unique perspective from people that have been both on the job, whether that be law enforcement or military, and then have also been on the training side of it on the civilian sector. So when looking at today's law enforcement and the push for the community-oriented policing and a softer image and all that kind of stuff, what's your opinion on the quote-unquote militarization of police? Is it a real thing? Is it not a real thing?
Well,
because most people that I've ever talked to, and I'm also of the same opinion, is that we're not even to even label it like that is not even accurate to begin with. But we're not even close to being militarized in a lot of aspects.
I'm with you. I think that the similarities help lend itself to it, right? So I was a sergeant.
Sure.
At my police department. Within that, we had lieutenants and captains and, military rank structure. If you go to any basic academy in America, you're going to see dudes doing drill and ceremonies, right? Whether they look good doing it or not remains to be seen, but they're at least attempting to march in formation and, flag raising ceremonies, saluting the flag. Yeah. There are some similarities that make it easy then when cops in particular start getting outfitted with AR-15s. Well, look what these sons of bitches are doing. And then, I think that there was a big shift. The global war on terror certainly benefited SWAT. We learned a lot of stuff, and the push for technology to keep the warfighters safe has some direct correlation to also keeping police officers safe. And so you start looking at some of that stuff, and it only makes sense that I'm going to try to make myself as safe as I can be while doing this job. And then you start adding in armored vehicles, right, and doing that kind of shit. And the Dermo program providing some of those, you put a fancy paint job on your shit, but it's still an armored vehicle of some kind. And so I think it's easy to say, well, it's militarization of police. When you look at the similarities. The difference to me, though, is that a lot of those technology upgrades and other things have prevented us from having to go to the ultimate level of force because we simply have the shit. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. You look at teams with armored vehicles that have been engaged, they may not have returned fire because they got the armored vehicle, right? So it gives them an opportunity to pause this thing up a little bit versus back in the day when I started when all we had was a Econoline van. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so everybody wants to look at when something happens, and obviously somebody getting killed is usually the catalyst for the biggest issues. They want to look at that and go, well, you see, the militarization is what's causing that, but we don't have a check measure to figure out how many deaths did the militarization prevent? Right. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
For sure.
I mean, body armor, bringing night vision, explosive breach. So many things on the SWAT that I can point to that have been huge safety issues for cops. And it's just like anything else, man. If you can throw hands like a crazy man, if you can just flat get down in the fight, how intimidating is the guy that's trying to chest up to? You know what I'm saying? If they're going, bro, at any point in this thing, I will knock you the fuck out. And potentially, you can sit there and talk a little bit longer. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Versus a guy that has no skill, well, he immediately goes to the wood, and now you got nightstick footage coming out, and it looks bad, even though it's within policy and it's within that guy's force continuum and within his use of force policies. It just looks shitty. So the better prepared cop didn't have to throw any hands because he was confident to stand there and talk for a little bit longer. And if you decide you want to get after it, then I'm ready. This sounds shitty. I don't mean it to be. The fear biter might use force earlier and more than he should, based on his inadequate skill level. I
100% agree with that.
And so the same thing goes on the militarization side, man. A rifle with a red dot can sort of be pointed at and say, well, why are you using that military grade shit? Well, the military grade shit may be saving some sons of bitches' lives around here, and we don't even know it.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And people are like, well, what, militarization of police, and my response has been, yeah, so what? So what?
Right.
As long as discipline goes with it, right? As long as fucking integrity goes with it, as long as I am not violating people's constitutional rights with it, then who gives a shit what I look like?
And that's one of my main points when I have that discussion is it comes down to a profession. If you're still providing a professional police service, you're not trampling on people's rights, just like what you said. But I think that most people that support the police, which I've said it before, I still do think there is a majority of people in this country who support law enforcement. They want their police protected. They want their police to have everything that they need so that when they're having to deal with their own personal shit show, or they've got, they're at the mall and a freaking, active shooter rolls out or whatever. Oh, yeah. They want those guys showing up to save their lives, to be able to have all the gear and be safe and do what they need to do.
Yep.
Because it just makes sense at the end of the day.
Makes sense to me.
But you have the flip side of that argument, where it's like
they should be wearing button-up shirts and...
Well, cops shouldn't have guns.
Yeah, cops shouldn't have guns. They don't even need guns.
Yeah. We like our police uniform, man, we went from, when I got hired, wool pants and that bullshit to polyester wash and wear kind of outfit. And then at the end of it here now wearing the jumpsuits from Bratware, which are... they're waterproof or very water resistant compared to the old poly shit. They're, depending summer weight, winter weight. So guys warmer doing his task. But it looks militaristic. You got the shit. Now you got outer soft armor areas, right, with potentially some Molly Rose and guys carrying shit off their hips. Well, that's, you can say, well, it's militarization, but there's a purpose behind that as well, right? Not just accessing the equipment there to make sure that you're getting to what you need handily. But shit, dude, number one killer of cops is bad back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
We were talking to Dr. Mike Simpson about that, talking about the health effects of the standard equipment that that most patrol cops wear versus having a load-bearing vest and, being able to take a lot of that weight off and the long-term health benefits to that. And there's something to be said, too, for morale inside the agency for being able to be comfortable to do your job, to have equipment that's durable, uniforms that are durable, that last, and that are easy to maintain. And it's funny how there are people out there that don't want to hear the reasoning behind it.
Right.
They just look at it and they go, no, that makes me uncomfortable. And we live in such an outraged society anyway right now.
Yep.
Where everything makes everybody uncomfortable and we offend everybody.
In today's climate.
Yeah, especially in today's climate.
Yeah.
But
I think that's,
so moving on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that's a big reason why. And so again, the training supervisor for my last 5 years, so all new hires would come to me first and they go to the academy and then they come back to me for post-academy training and then eventually out to FTO. And so I'm getting the first look at some of those dudes. And it's easy to say, well, the people putting in today suck compared to back in the day and this and that. We've obviously hired some very, very, very good candidates, guys that are be better cop than I ever would have been.
Sure.
But it is slim pickings. And I think a chunk of that is the pervasive attitude toward police, the shit that's in the media, and good guys that would have potentially applied to be a cop 10, 15 years ago, not even considering it for a career because of all the fucking heartache and potential headache and shit that comes along with it. Some of that, I mean, if you're in the job for the right reasons and you're trying to do a good job for victims and be a professional and do all that stuff, that is the rare guy these days. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely.
It's just I don't know, man. I guess that's the piece. And that's clear, like I said, it's not everybody. I mean, we've hired some very, very good guys with their heads switched on, guys and gals. So I don't know, man. Everybody seems to be having a hard time recruiting and getting the right people in the seats, and there's got to be something behind that, man.
Yeah, for sure. One thing with you being a sergeant in law enforcement and a corporal in the military, want to pick your brain on micromanaging and supervisors that do that. When you see a supervisor micromanaging or, hear about it, what are some things that come to your mind or, can you go to that supervisor and just explain to him some of the things that he's doing with that micromanaging, how he's hurting the other officer?
Yeah. So, I think the best way to be a good leader is learn from the bad leaders that we've all experienced. And it always kind of tripped me out. There's an organization close to me that you can't physically arrest somebody without the sergeant saying, yeah, that's okay. And I've always thought, what the fuck are we talking about?
Well, the last agency I worked for, that it became that before I left. You had to get a sergeant's approval to make an arrest.
See, if that truly is required, then you are hiring and retaining the wrong people. I should be able to, and make no mistake, I think the other thing too, right? You take a 6-month veteran and expect him to perform at the level of a 20-year veteran with all the experience that goes with it. Well, that's just dumb. You're stupid, right? I mean, clearly the 20-year guy has way more opportunities to have made mistakes and learn from and done all that kind of bullshit. So, sometimes we got to remember that cops are humans too, right? And as much training as we try to provide and do shit for guys, they're going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen. You hope they're not egregious ones, but that type of shit. I have always been for whatever reason, a very hands-off kind of dude, right? And I mean, obviously within department policies, if patrol was going to stuff a door, then they had to get supervisor permission first. So I would brief my squads at the beginning of every new rotation, and I would tell them up front, if it's emergent and you ask me over the radio if you can, then I'm going to seek discipline for you being stupid. Make a fucking decision. That's what you're getting paid for.
Well, you have to maintain.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can tell me about it after the fact. Hey, Sarge, this is what was going on, and we kicked the fucking door and forced entry, and here is where we're sitting right now. And then I'm gonna be like, cool. And if the chief came to me and said, did they tell you ahead of time, or did you pre-authorize it? I'm gonna say, yeah, I pre-authorized it 4 months ago at the start of this rotation with this new squad when I told them if it was emergent, do your damn job. That's simple. Yes, it was pre-authorized.
Yeah,
not
for sure.
Not 2 minutes before they did it.
Yeah.
But at the start of the rotation, same thing with pit, right? If certain speed and supervisor approval, I would preload them up front. Do you really think you're going to be in the middle of a pursuit and we still pursue, and then be able to get on the radio and go, hey, Sarge, I think there's an opportunity for pit coming up here, and may I please do that? And then me going, well, fuck, I guess that would be okay. Let me think about it for a second. Yeah, okay, well, go ahead and do it if you can. Oh, well, shit, we just lost that opportunity. I mean, is that,
by the time you're done having a discussion.
Yeah, man, it's just stupid, right? But with that too is accountability, man. Be accountable for your own actions, and I think, you got to have a level of trust, and make no mistake, right? If JC's on my squad and he's a complete boner and doing all kinds of stupid shit, then I'm going to start to micromanage your dumbass.
I am a complete boner.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
I am that guy. No.
I've never been a guy that punishes the group for the actions of one. But likewise, I'm also not going to let motherfuckers freelance because one guy can make decisions and he's using this kind of judgment. The guy's stupid, right. And I'm going to start to micromanage your dumbass.
Yeah, and I think there are some cases where micromanagement is appropriate. So in a training situation where you're training, you got a brand new cop that's never done the job before, has no idea from his mouth from his asshole. You have to micromanage that person to keep them alive and to show them how the job works.
Yep.
Now, when they show competency, you can start to back off and you back away from it. If you have an employee that's a complete and total screw up, obviously, like you're saying, yeah, you're going to have to step in and you're going to have to provide a course correction for that person. Yep. And that may involve micromanaging. But leadership, I think, especially in organizations like law enforcement, the military, and even the business world, I'm sure, you have to be able to step back and detach yourself and allow your subordinate leadership, your guys that are leaders that you're managing, allow them to step up and make decisions and be a part of the decision-making process, because they're ultimately going to find pride in that. They're going to develop confidence. They're going to be able to move up in the organization, and that's what you want. You want to constantly be looking for that guy that's going to replace you, or hell, may even be your boss some days. You got to be able to realize that there are going to be people out there that are going to be bigger, stronger, faster, and smarter, and those people are assets for the organization. And as a leader, I think you have to step back and recognize those things, and try to take your ego out of it as much as possible. But if you're constantly just in somebody's ass all day long, because that's your style of leadership, you've got to have control over every little aspect of what's going on. You're going to cause your people to make mistakes because they're going to second guess themselves all the time, and ultimately, in a job like ours, that's going to lead people to getting hurt.
Yep.
Right.
Indecision.
So.
Right.
Exactly. And then of course efficiency goes down, and then disgruntledness goes up. And it just ends up being a vicious cycle.
I agree, man. The succession planning piece is, so if you have nothing but bosses that are micromanagers, then guess what the future bosses will be?
Yep, micromanagers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what you're breeding, dude. So that's what you're going to end up with.
Yeah. Switching gears here a little bit, I have one question for you. What are some similarities you see in like your law enforcement career and owning your own business? What are some things that are very similar in those two things?
So I think, man, probably the biggest thing, and particularly now that I'm retired, and this is my job. I mean, I'm getting a retirement check, but this is my job. Throughout my career, I've been in an organization that ran two-man squads. You were always solo in a car, kind of, and unless there was like a fat overlap day, or if you were doing some type of emphasis patrol or some shit. By and large, you're by yourself.
Sure.
And so I think that the independence piece, the realization that nobody's coming to rescue you, your results are directly related to your efforts. all of those things in the police job, I think, have helped me with the business. You know what I mean? It's easy to sit back and go, well, geez, I wish I had more classes. I wish guys would sign up more. I wish this, that, the other thing. What the fuck am I doing about it? Right? Maybe your curriculum sucks. Maybe I'm a terrible teacher and I need to improve that component of it. Maybe I need to do a better job administratively of reaching out to guys so they have the information they need, they feel comfortable signing up. And what am I doing to broadcast, advertise, put the info, whatever, to get guys' asses in the seats, to do some of that shit. So I think the two go very much hand in hand. The independence that cops get, I think, well, in some organizations anyway, I think is valuable to any organization. And it's almost long as, people talk about, well, it's hiring veterans is good, right? As the work ethic and all the shit that the military does for you, which it did do for me. But I think the same thing is true in law enforcement for guys that are getting around. I mean, we're not talking about obviously that bottom 10% that no matter what they ain't going to do a damn thing.
Sure.
But all of those things I think are good. We hit it a second ago. The accountability piece. Whatever you do or don't do is your fault. That's on you, man. People want to talk about cops a bunch of liars and that's bullshit. Now, are there? Of course. The vast majority they have the highest level of integrity you'd ever want in any occupation because we breed that shit. We don't. I don't suffer fucking fools. And I sure as shit ain't going to stand by while a cop does some illegal shit or violates somebody's fucking rights and not do anything. You know what I mean?
No, and I'm tired of hearing about how we accept that and we just tolerate it.
That's bullshit.
No one hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
Man, that's a fact, bro. That is absolutely the fact. I worked a caper in street crimes where arrested a dude and he wanted to work off his charges, and the first one he tells me about is a bad cop in my organization. And I remember thinking to myself, this is bullshit. I mean, he hates that guy. My man pinched him at some point or whatever the fuck, and he's just trying to stir some shit. But he was right. The dude was a shitty cop. And once I determined that, I got no fucking pity on him.
Nope. Wow. Not at all. Yeah. Yeah, no, because all it takes is one. All it takes is one for the rest of our jobs to become harder. That's all it takes.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure.
That's all it takes, and it's more than just about that. I mean, at the beginning of this job, you swore an oath. If you're a stand-up person, and you believe in doing the right thing, that means something to you.
It does to me.
And then when you have some asshole that takes advantage of that, fuck you.
Yep.
Yeah, for real.
Yep. It's always messed up. Anyway, I mean, that's I took that oath serious. I took. A sergeant of mine as a young copper told me in my eval, you do a good job of taking care of victims. And I thought that was one of the highest praises I got throughout my entire career, that he noticed that I gave a fuck and was trying to do the best job I could for victims of any crime. Sure. You know what I mean? And dude, the shit gets old too, right? I mean, and I wish it didn't happen, man. I wish I wasn't having a bad day, or that you got bad news on the home front or whatever the fuck, and then I go to your vehicle prowl and it's the 15th fucking one I've done today. You know what I mean? And I kind of have to douche about it. And I can't say I've never done that.
We all have. We all have. Listen, I mean,
we're human.
You said it. We're human fucking beings. I mean, stuff gets to us, and God, when you go to the same crap over and over and over again, and by the end of it, especially if you've had some, messed up call or whatever that you just came from, and you're just like, I'm really dealing with this right now. I'm dealing with the fact that I'm having to explain to your 3-year-old that they need to put their seatbelt on. I mean, it's just like, it's hard. It's hard to manage all that. It's hard to have a continuous, of course, your admin from a community relations standpoint wants you to show up with a smile, and be friendly and stuff. That's easier said than done.
Yeah, and with that too, man, we do too, right? I want to treat every new thing as a new thing, and give you a positive experience with the police department and do all that. But fuck, man, cut me some slack once in a while, right? Tell me you ain't, wherever the fuck you work, that you ain't had a bad day and snapped at somebody once or twice. Fuck's sake.
Yep. Absolutely.
And to that end, as a police, I mean, I've rolled up on scenes where people immediately in my ass, and then I got to go, well, they're pissed off because their son is hurt from this collision that I've responded to. They're not lashing out at me. Yeah. They're just upset. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and you're the focal point. Well, right, because so what have been some of the challenges for you starting, maintaining, and growing a small business?
Probably juggling time was one of them, right? So that prior to retiring, if I was teaching, then I was burning vacation or comp time, which is meant to be for the family, right? That's your chill time. And now I'm intentionally choosing to surround myself with cops on my vacation time. So some of that, right?
That's crazy.
I think that the love of the game is what didn't make that be a bad thing necessarily, but it's a challenge for sure. The last year here, as I was prepping for retirement, my wife and I had talked a year ago and said, hey, this is the date, this is when I'm leaving. So I told her, I said, okay, well, no vacations this year. I got to get every single second I get. I'm going to put in time for, every bit of overtime I get and all the vacation time. And I need to be front loading a bunch of time in the business so that I'm hot to go for 18.
Right.
So that stuff has been a bit challenging. Some of the stuff, I obviously as a supervisor get into some shit and, dudes that have required a boot in the ass, various levels of that. Well, there's guys in the organization that if you talk to them, they'll tell you I'm the worst dickhead ever. They won't tell you why I got into their ass, just that I did, and so I'm a cocksucker. But I remember a dude, I know the department's social media policy. I know the department's policies on everything because I'm briefing all the new dudes up. And so I would get off of work and then I would go down to our indoor range and shoot a drill and videotape it and put it out. And a guy beefed me on that and said, hey, this is bullshit. He's up there using the department's stuff for his own business and blah, blah, blah. So that ended up going to IA and the bosses reviewed it. And I said, okay, well, based on here's what the policies say. Here's how I'm doing it. I'm shooting my own ammunition. I'm on my time off. The range policy is this, which means I can do whatever the fuck I want there when I'm on my time off, basically.
Right.
Shoot my own gun, yada, yada, yada. And ultimately the boss, I said, so you can change policies if you want to, but you can't say I'm violating department policy. And so ultimately they're like, this is dumb. What you're doing is perfectly fucking fine. And we don't want to change a policy that allows guys to get in there and shoot on their time off. So basically fuck off. So some of that stuff, and that's an egregious example, but I intentionally, I own a complete set of SWAT gear that as much as possible replicated my issued shit because I'm using the issued shit in my personal training and on missions. Does that make sense? So obviously it's for me to be successful. So the only thing that I changed it and bought all my shit in multicam since my team issues black, but it's the same crap, you know what I mean? So if I'm holster A in black for work, then I would buy holster A in multicam for the training business and, across the board on all that shit. And my fucking team decides they want to go to multicam. So now I've got a mountain of multicam shit. I'm like, these sons of bitches are going to think I'm using the department's crap for my personal, right? So some of that, not the suck for, you talk about personal business, but mine is obviously very related to law enforcement. I teach SWAT tactics and firearms, and so some of those challenges where you're trying not to, I guess, overstep some of those bounds where guys might look at you with the squint eye and go, "Why are you using your department to do personal crap?" And I haven't, but it potentially there's an appearance of that. So that, you I guess you stay concerned about whether or not your integrity staying intact, or whether guys think your integrity staying intact. So there's some of that shit. Since retiring, in this climate, in this political shit, it's even though I was teaching on my own time and this and that, everything was, if you, it's not difficult to figure out where the fuck I work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So you got to be careful too about what you're saying, because a joke that goes sideways now, somebody, and now they call the boss and he's beefing me, which I've had happen a couple times. As have I. Yeah, and so, you're kind of like, I got, in both cases, my boss is like, what the fuck, you're on your own time? Yeah, you're doing your own thing? Yeah, okay, well, fuck it, man. Check yourself a little bit. I don't think, I've never gone out of my way to offend anybody, but I could take 5 people and, have them listen to an old Eddie Murphy stand-up routine, and somebody there would be offended by some of the shit he says, because that's just not who they are. Sure. And so some of that, I guess, challenges on that end, which has been alleviated now that I'm retired, right? If you want to make a beef, then beef it to TapRack's CEO, which also happens to be right. So just minor shit like that, man. I think on the personal front, we've been talking about professionalism and all that kind of bullshit. And I never felt like if I was taking vacation to go teach a class, that my whole team would be killed if I wasn't present on the call out. You know what I mean? But there have certainly been times where I'm laid up in the hotel somewhere, I'm on vacation or I'm burning my comp time or whatever. So it's my time, just like, if I was in Mexico with my wife or whatever. But call outs have happened when I've been out teaching, and I just got to get, personally, I kind of feel like a douche. Does that make sense? It was always one of those things like,
no, it absolutely does.
I totally understand. And I'm over here and wherever the hell doing this class. And so on the personal side, I guess getting over that, because truly, I mean, it is something just to get over, right? I mean, if I was, like I said, if I was on vacation in Mexico and there was a call out, I sure as shit wouldn't go, I shouldn't be spending time with my wife. Call, you know what I mean? Right. It's the same thing. When I'm on vacation, it's my business.
And it's funny too, because we think that way, right? Like, it's the same thing. I mean, it's the same thing. I've had situations before where I've taken time off, and then something big happens at work, and it's like somebody got hurt or whatever, and you're like, God, man, I should have been there. If I'd have been there, whatever. And the reality of it is, you have no whether you were there or not. If it was going to happen, it was going to happen. Maybe you could have mitigated it, maybe not. I mean, and it's just funny how we get wrapped up in it. But it shows a passion for the job. It shows a love for your brothers, and sisters and all that, and it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I think unless you get obsessive about it.
Say, man, well, goddamn it, I should have been there. And he said, man, if you would have been there, then nothing would have fucking happened. And then you would have been like, shit, I wish I would have been on vacation. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah,
that's true. Then, yeah. Either way it goes, you're going to be bitching about it.
So, how have you? Obviously, TapRack probably has grown at an increased rate since you've retired, right? I would imagine that's true.
Yeah, I mean,
because you've been able to dedicate more time.
Yeah, leading up to it, there was a concerted effort last year to try to push the brand. And knowing what was coming, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, within the last year for sure, I've tried really hard to get my name out there. And there's been, I mean, some good breaks and opportunities and things that popped up in the last 2 or 3 years, I guess, that have helped with that to some degree. So yeah, man. I mean, I've definitely been trying. I think I'm probably pretty well known here in the state of Washington, just from the time that I put into SWAT and being a state instructor for so long, and guys that came through as new dudes when I was teaching are now team leaders and shit like that. But cracking that national egg is harder. I mean, everybody's got a guy like me in their region. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You start trying to propel yourself around the country and make make an impact onto a larger audience. That is a challenge for sure.
And you're in good company too. I mean, you got your Aaron Cowens of the world and your Jared Restons and your, I mean, you have so many people out there that do this and have been doing it. So how has that been has it been a challenge for you to be able to kind of get your name established and show that, hey, yeah, you can come to my shit too, and I'll, you're gonna learn something different, or keeping it unique, or I guess maybe my question is,
what sets you apart?
Yeah, what kind of sets you maybe apart from other people? Is it your approach, or?
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's so different instructors, right? If we're talking about something as simple as shooting a pistol, right? Dude, line the fucking sights up and then pull the trigger and don't disturb.
Yeah, you're not reinventing the wheel.
Just do that. Yeah. Now, how you get a guy there and how you convince him to get there, there's maybe some uniqueness to that, but the end result is exactly the same. I always tell dudes, man, I've had repeat dudes come through and I was, man, you're going to start fucking wallpapering your house with TapRack certificates, bro. Go see somebody else.
Go see somebody else. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's important. And that shows to me, that's a simple way to learn whether or not you've got a competent instructor or teacher, is if they're telling you, hey, don't just take all my classes. I mean, take all my classes. I'll take your money. I'll teach you stuff. But go to other people. Learn other perspectives, right?
I think that's
important.
For sure. When we talk about all the time in law enforcement, right? The inbreeding stuff and, police organizations that don't send their guys to training and all they get is what their training unit puts out. That's not necessarily a good thing, dude. That's a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And the same goes with firearms. And guys will ask me, why the fuck do you still go to training? Well, I think being a constant student is just lip service, right? I want to go get it, and make sure my individual skills are staying where they need to be an instructor. I mean, I got to prove I can do the shit. But every class to me, so I might go to your pistol class and not learn anything new about shooting a pistol. But for me, I always, as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, well, why the fuck did he say it like that? And did that resonate with me or not? Does that resonate with me more than the way I say it?
Right.
How did he structure his class? Why did he put, malfunctions before reloads? I mean, is there a method to his madness? So let me consider that and then potentially go, dude, why did you do that in that order? Maybe you'll tell me, maybe you just go, fuck, I don't know, this is all I've done it, right?
Sure, yeah, right.
I got shit to learn as an instructor about managing, a class, and TTPs and guns and all that bullshit, just like anybody else. So I think that's an important piece to consider. And then, I mean, I've certainly, it's funny, right? The little game, right, where you sit in a circle and you whisper the secret around the circle, and by the time it gets to the last kid, it's all fucked up, right?
Right, yeah.
That communication piece, I might be saying the same thing over and over and over again, and somebody else will say it a completely different way with the same thought process as me. I mean, it's not, they're not teaching it different than me. They just say it a different way, and for whatever reason, that's what connects the two synapses for you, and you go, fuck, I get it. You know what I mean? Then there's your light bulb moment. And then you come back to me there and you go, man, I can't believe homeboy told me to do this. And I'm like, motherfucker, I've been saying that for 5 fucking years. And you know what I mean? And you're like, what? Who said that? You don't remember me saying this? You know what I mean? That kind of shit. What you can't get frustrated about is just that's some people, and where at, professionally, man, we talked about drinking from that fire hose. Well, you're not going to retain everything in a class, right? No. That important bit that the next guy gave you as a light bulb moment, you just didn't hear it when you were in my class because you were still thinking about the thing I had said 10 minutes previously. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so, there's that chunk. I think the other thing, man, is like the shooter symposium. We were all, at the end of the last night, we had a little after-action deal, if you want to call it that, and just talked about for next year and this and that and the other thing. And Dan Brokos, who's a solid dude, I mean, he said, man, it's fucking weird to have this many personalities involved in a training expo, and we all fucking get along. We all think highly of each other, right? So, I mean, there was dudes, hey Bill, hey, man, do you do a fighting around vehicles class? And I said, nah, dude, I don't. I mean, I've done it, right? I've been to that training. It's just not one of the things that I teach. I'm going to recommend you go down to Brokos because that's what his specialty is. So go see what the fuck you got to say about it and sign up for one of his classes. You know what I mean? Jared Reston and I were talking about just SWAT tactics, and I think it ends up being so it's a definition thing, right? So we use the booty backward technique, and he uses the booty forward technique, and so we get into an argument or whatever the fuck about which is superior, and then we finally talk about the shit. We feel like we realize we're talking about the same goddamn thing. We've just named it something different.
It's all semantics. It's all semantics.
And so, man, I'm going to show you what I believe based on my experience training, what my team has done over the years, the course of my career. But fuck, go listen to Jared as well. Yeah, and there's a chunk of my experience is obviously specific to my team, right? I mean, this is the stuff we're doing, and we're successful at it. So then you go, okay, well, I'm going to do that. And I pump the brakes, homeboy. I have 36 guys. You have 8. I get to train 30 hours a month. You get 8. We have a budget of whatever the fuck. You have none. And so there's potential that shit my team can do, you can't because your guys are dumb just because you don't have the frequency that I have.
Right.
Yeah.
Conversely, I might say, this is the way we do it. And this guy says, well, we do it this way. And I'm thinking, how the fuck are you getting away with that shit? And it's the same thing. Well, he gets 60 hours of training a month, and he has 100 assaulters, and he has all of these things that my team doesn't have. So he can do that thing, but I can't because I don't have the resources, time, cash, et cetera, to do it. And it's not that his team is better than mine necessarily. It's just we're coming from 2 different experiences. And so go get a variety of shit, man. There are very few dudes that I repeat customered on, not because the training sucked. I enjoyed it and got a lot out of it, but I want to go hear what somebody else has to say on the topic as well.
Right.
And
it makes tons of sense.
That makes complete sense. So why? Because I'm sure we have some people out here that are listening to the podcast that maybe are curious about firearms training.
Right.
Why is it important for a regular citizen to obtain the type of training that you provide?
Well, I think so. This 2018 is my. I opened the door to the gun classes for citizens, and bear in mind I have only catered to police and military up until this point, and so that isn't elitism. It was mainly that's who the audience I know. And I think to some degree, man, I was also just a hair. Well, here's one thing I can goddamn guarantee you: if a brand new cop in your organization could come to my my pistol class and be fine, and I know he's going to be fine because he's at least achieved a standard, and I don't even need to know what the fuck it is, but he's done something. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But in addition to that, I know for a fact that dude has range etiquette down because the academy instructors have kicked his balls in about the 4 firearms safety rules and showing clear before they leave the line and whatever the hell their safety procedures are. That dude is going to be very aware that guns are dangerous thing by the time he comes to my course. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So with a citizen, and the hard part of this is vetting him. How do I vet the guy to even determine that he has that stuff down? So I'm not scared and nervous about him just being on the line and drawing with his finger on the trigger and doing some other weird shit. And that's not, this is not an admonition of citizen shooters at all. I'm just saying I have a baseline with a police officer that I know exists. No matter where he's at as a cop, his state has shit that he must have passed to get to this stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it makes tons of sense.
And so some of that shit worried me a little bit. And then I started thinking about it, and okay, so all of the classes that I attended just as a dude, right? I mean, it wasn't a closed cop class. How many times did I see citizens in those classes that were complete goat ropes, unsafe, scary, this, that, the other thing? And the answer is one time. And the instructor handled it very well. Tried to coach the guy, stayed on him a little bit tighter. Ultimately, the dude figured out on his own that this was beyond the scope of his current level of training, and so he pulled his own pin and left the class. And you could tell it was close to the instructor saying, "It's time for you to go." Right? I'm done with you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
The reverse is for a citizen to take his time, pay the tuition, pay for bullets, do all those things. Typically speaking, those guys are going to be trying to learn. And do a good job with it. And that has been the vast majority of citizens, certainly everybody at the symposium this weekend, way more citizen shooters than cops, and everybody's good to go. Some hard-ass shooting dudes. When I started shooting competition and getting my shit pushed in by citizens, there's clearly dudes that can get there. So the answer is, why do you need to go to it? I think, on the gun side, I have tried to make my programs very technical in nature, and that doesn't mean there's not options. I provide options, right? If you're a lefty, let's do it this way. If you're a right-handed guy, here's a couple different ways to get this done. Select which one is going to work best for you, type of thing. But I can give you a little bit of mindset, I think, from having I've never been involved in a deadly force encounter, but a bunch of my mates have, and obviously talking to those dudes, watching how they perform, how that impacted them, I can kind of go there. But probably not to the depth that Jared Reston has, right? I mean, he has had a lot of involved shootings. He's been shot the shit out of him, lived through it, all of the heartache and headache that went with that, I'm sure his family probably had some stuff to say about him continuing to be a police officer after he was injured so badly and that kind of deal. And so that dude is probably somebody we all want to talk to, right, and get his experience, because what one man can do, so can another. And so potentially that guy, right? There's military guys. My good mate Chuck Pressburg has not been a police officer, but he has killed a lot of guys in combat, and so he can talk to you about some of the shit that we hear about, fine motor skills and what happens to you in a gunfight, and because he's lived them, numerous times. So I think there's value for not just cops, but for all citizens to go get that type of training and not just be focused on putting the bullet in the X-ring, but listen to why the guy has that methodology and his experience that brought him to that point, and how will that affect and impact you on the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes tons of sense.
I think there's a lot of bullshit out there too, and so buyer beware. It's odd, man. My kids were really, really little, and I had just gotten into teaching for the state, and I was having fun with it, and I'm sure you guys have had, as trainers, have had the experience where a dude will get on and say, "Hey, dude, thanks, man, for giving me that. I think you saved my life with that training," kind of deal, right? And that sounds corny, and I don't mean it to be. But you get a few of those under your belt, and you're like, fuck's sake, I'm making a difference with some dudes, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
When my kids were little, we were over camping and shit, and we were driving. We'd said, "Fuck it, we're gonna leave early, right?" So we would drive through the night, let the kids sleep in the car, so we get back and get some shit done versus spend the night again. But my wife and I are talking, and she's what are you gonna do after law enforcement? And I said, I think that I'm having fun with this training shit. I think that it's something I'd like to pursue, that I want to do, and so maybe something like that. And she said, "Why don't you do it right now?" And I said, well, I don't have the fucking requisite experience to do that yet. Right? I don't have it yet. I've been in the Army for 6 years. I think at that stage I'd been a cop for 8 or 9 years. Who the fuck am I to go tell anybody anything about it? You know what I mean? I gotta pay the man. And I think that there's a lot of that's missing. The tactical training world is very sexy, and there's a lot of cool dudes in it. So maybe motherfuckers want to be like the dude they see or whatever the shit, and they're not willing. And maybe some of it's societal as well, right? The instant gratification bullshit where you get 2 NRA pistol classes and you think you can go out and be an instructor. And, man, right. I don't know if you're there yet, bro. Even if you shoot well, I don't know if that makes you a good instructor. You might be a good shooter, but that don't mean you can teach the shit. So there's some of that. So, I don't know. I certainly wasn't willing to throw my hat in the ring professionally for several more years, right? I think I had a decade on SWAT, more than a decade as a cop. And then even then it was what I knew, which was SWAT tactics shit. The funny thing, here's another weird, I guess based on my history and shit, I intended to just teach SWAT tactics, right? That was my retirement was SWAT hostage rescue,
right?
Warrant service, fucking slow and deliberate, covert clearing, vehicle takedown, the shit that I was doing. And the hard part of that is I can't put those videos out on the internet for obvious reasons, right? I can't put the playbook out there. Mm-hmm. So you end up putting shooting videos out, which you're hoping guys are like, man, my man shoots pretty good. He must do the other shit pretty good too, right? But fuck, man, it's like everything is about the shooting now, and I don't know if I would really consider myself a shooter. I think I'm more of a tactics guy and a SWAT team leading guy than I am a shooter.
Right.
So if you think I shoot good, man, you should watch a motherfucker team lead. My shit, I'm like goddamn Cat Morgan.
Oh my god.
So, how'd you get involved with Matt Landfair in primary and secondary?
So, which was huge. That was a big help to me, right? As far as getting my name out there and doing some. Matt, I don't know how the fuck. My daughter had said, "Hey, Dad, you need to get a Facebook account for your business." I was like, "Fuck all that. That's pedophiles. There's all that's on Facebook, right?"
Oh my god.
And she was like, "You're a dumbass. You're." The new cops are on Facebook, right? Your target audience, the guys that would probably come to your training, are on Facebook, and so you put that footprint out there. And so she actually set my Facebook shit up. I didn't even know how to fucking do it. Just kind of like Skype. I had no goddamn clue, right?
Right.
So she sets the shit up and whatever, and so I'm kind of looking around at crap, and I'm putting up a little bit of this and that here, to whatever, trying to put info out, do whatever. And somehow the primary and secondary network started up, and so I joined those groups, and then I was making comments. And at that time, I think there was maybe 2 groups, professional and just primary and secondary. Now there's like 1 billion of them.
There's a bunch.
And as guys were posted up, I'd say, well, here's what the fuck I think about that kind of a thing. And I guess Matt thought that some of my answers were pretty damn good. And so he contacted me and said, "Hey, man, are you interested in being a mod for this shit?" And I was like, well, what does that entail? And off we go, right? So got involved with it there. All of the PNS moderator guys are pretty good dudes. So then there's side chats and shit that talk about what's happening in the groups and whatever the fuck kind of a deal. So you're getting to meet some fellas and shit, which is it's always about relationships. And then Matt is expanding the footprint of his business, which is primary and secondary. And he's like, "Man, we need to do some videos." And I said, "Well, fuck, I can punch out some. I don't know how to put them up there. You know what I mean? I know how to get them on my phone because
I can press record.
If you tell me how to get them to you, then do what you want with them." So the first ones you'll see pretty grainy and pretty just me just stepping up the line and shooting a drill, right? I'm just, "Hey, man, here's a fucking drill. Go shoot the motherfucker," right? No production value whatsoever, kind of a thing. And,
I think that's how everybody starts out.
And so Matt started putting them up as secondary videos, and then the PNS is a bigger audience than Tap Rack had. So then you got a bunch of dudes now looking at the videos, and then attempting to shoot the drill or the standard or whatever the fuck I was putting out there. And I think it helped me get a larger audience, for lack of a better term. and then it just kind of exploded from there, man. I think from that, that gave me some exposure to Chuck Pressburg, hooked a brother up real goddamn good with B.E. Myers. I mean, my team, we hired Chuck to come and do a night vision training for us when we were first starting down that road. So I got to meet him there. And then, I think Chuck was pretty impressed with the team's capability of what we were trying to do. And then just individually getting to know the guy and seeing his passion for wanting guys to go home safe and good guys to win gunfights and that kind of a thing was equivalent to mine. So we kind of clicked. And then Chuck threw my name in the hat to B.E. Myers. Chuck was already doing stuff, B.E. on the side. So brand ambassador from Mall popped off, and then and Matt Myers and all those guys have been real good to me, and it's just one of those opportunities that popped up. And then, of course, that lends you credibility, right? There's a major player out there that's saying, of course, you're our guy. So that has helped out, and it just goes from there, man. So the videos, the brand ambassadorship stuff with AT Armor and Mike Martin is a really, really solid dude, right? Now, I think maybe that's some of the stuff dudes are like, you hear the Surefire name, right? And everybody knows who the fuck Surefire is, but you don't know anybody in particular at that organization, right? Your fucking light broke, so you shoot them an email and then you get an RMA number and the motherfucker gets fixed and that company.
It's the umbrella.
Yeah.
It's the umbrella. It's
once you start meeting some of those dudes, right? And you hear industry is a bunch of backstabbers, industry is this, that, the other thing. That has not been my experience. And I'm sure those motherfuckers exist. They exist everywhere.
For sure.
Andrew Wright, who's a Surefire dude, and Surefire reaching out and saying, hey, man, do we want to do a field notes with you based on the other videos you put out? So I did the first field notes. Well, now it's Surefire's shit. And so I'm getting even more dudes looking at my dumb ass. But it's those types of opportunities, man, that you're very thankful that have come along, and primary and secondary was certainly the start of that, bro. If it wasn't for Matt Landfair asking me to mod and then expanding his shit and doing all the stuff that he has done, I don't know if I would have. I would not be where I am today. Certainly, I mean, it's not just from the people seeing it, but also the opportunities to meet guys that are willing to not just be concerned about themselves, but also help another dude out. And Chuck Pressburg has hooked me up. Dan Brokos hosted him for training. I wanted my guys to go through his CQB and his shooting class. So we got that thing going on and conversations with that guy. And he's a stand-up American and a good dude. And so he hooks me up with Victos. And now all of a sudden I'm doing shit for Victos. You know what I mean? So all those things, man, I think help out. And I tell most classes, man, at the end of the fucking day, I'm just a retired cop, man. I'm trying not to be some fucking diva or prima donna or any of that kind of bullshit. I recognize and understand how lucky and how fortunate I have been. And so, yeah, man, it's been fun. I mean, it's, the challenge of this and trying to, go tap rack worldwide and get my own fucking helicopter. I'm going to get one at some point, man.
As long as I get a ride, man, that's all I care about.
It's been a lot of fun, man. And I mean, I've met way better men than me doing this for sure. There's some really, really solid cats that have done a fuckload for this country.
Absolutely.
And they're giving it back to dipshits like me, man, that for whatever reason that they think it's I'm worthwhile to try and invest some time and effort and energy into, and I appreciate it.
Well, I think you are. I think you got a good message. And I think, it's easy to say that stuff about ourselves, but I mean, we've had the opportunity to interview, people like Tim Kennedy and stuff, and we're nobodies. I mean, we 13 episodes in, we're talking to Tim Kennedy. It's incredible. And talking to so many different people and branching out there, but you need that help, just like you found with everybody that you've associated with and everybody that's kind of opened those doors for things to accelerate. I mean, we're cops at the end of the day. It's not like,
at the end of the day, that's it.
It's not like our job skills translate to a lot of places in the world, and so especially into the business world, it can be very overwhelming. And those doors and those opportunities are great, and I don't think people really realize like how overwhelming and daunting a task of having your own business and trying to grow it and all that. I can't imagine how, I'm moderately familiar with social media and how to use it and stuff, but when you don't have any of that background in social media, and then of course social media is such an important part of growing a business nowadays, especially your damn Facebook, and I wish it wasn't, but it is. And golly, I mean, you just, it's overwhelming. So you got to have that. You got to have that help for sure.
The social media piece for sure, man, is to help it to expand your exposure. It's pretty fucking slick with Instagram and Facebook, right? Compared to the old way. I mean, when me and my partner started this shit, dude, we were literally printing flyers with our courses and shit and mailing those to every police department in America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
I mean, like, I remember one day, I think we did 500 of them bitches, right? Just tri-folding fucking letters, stick them in an envelope. And
straight up old school marketing
and
right there.
And knowing, right, already being coppers, we know exactly where the motherfucker, most of those were going to go, which is where?
Straight in the garbage.
Right? Yeah, and right into his garbage can, right?
Yeah.
He ain't even going to open this bullshit. Who are these fucking dumbasses?
Who the fuck are
right?
these guys?
These smokers.
Tap rack, what is this?
Yeah,
What the fuck is this?
Exactly.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, we send some of our interview requests out to people, and they're just, I'm sure they're like, what the
Fucking Street Warrior,
Street
what?
Warrior,
Get the
what?
fuck out of here,
Right?
losers. And they look at our Instagram, they're like 300 followers, faggots.
Yeah, what are these? Really? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you manage? I mean, how do you manage being able to? Because I struggle with this. I struggle with this really bad, and that's managing social media and the business at the same time. Being able to incorporate that and be like, I've really got to devote time to this crap. But it's hard. Like I struggle with it so bad. Like our social media sucks because I'm responsible for part of it. So.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for Big Bo doing Instagram, I don't know what the fuck we would do, honestly.
So all of that shit is weird, right? Particularly when you're a working cop with a social media posture. You're like, oh boy, am I going to get it for that bullshit? And because the business is related to me, I knew like, okay, I'm gonna have a Tap Rack Tactical Facebook page. This ain't gonna say shit about Bill Blowers, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So when I pop off some shit that's stupid, or if I use some curse words and the chief tries to jam me, I'm gonna say, hey, hold the fuck on, man. My wife runs that shit. Fuck with her. Right? I got nothing, man. I'm gonna go home and yell at her, chief.
Yeah, God, I can't believe she
Oh
pulled
my
that.
God, what's wrong with her?
And so that's my first Facebook page. It was a personal account, not a business one, but my name was Tap Rack Tactical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at Facebook, police got me and said, hey, dipshit, this is a business. Fuck you. You need to start a business page. And then you got a personal page to moderate the business page bullshit.
Yeah, that's so stupid to me.
As I'm tracking along with this shit, I'm trying to be professional about it and whatever. And I think one of the things that dudes dig about my training when they come to it is that I try to be humorous and because there's always something fucking funny about it, in my opinion. And so I think that the funny piece, if I just stick to trying to be a wise guy on Facebook and not take the shit too damn serious, other than putting out information about like when my classes are coming, where it's pretty bare bones, but doing some of that shit is, I think helps you get views. The patch thing is, guys are now trying to get that motherfucking tiger. You even know what I'm talking about?
The patch. That's cool. This thing's cool as shit.
Yeah.
I like your picture. I like your pictures from the Shooter Symposium where your thumbs down and you're holding that thing out. What's the story behind that? What's with the thumbs down thing? So, what am I missing there?
All of my courses, the Tiger Patch came from a friend of mine. She got hired with me at the PD and kind of tracking through her career. She ended up with some injuries and she had to quit being a police officer. But during her time as a cop, she was doing forensic art and doing some montages and shit like that.
That's cool.
And so when she quit being a cop, she levered that into a business, right, to be able to make some money. So very talented artist. Girl knows what's up. And so I had put out my logo. I don't really have a fucking logo. I never did, right? It was just the name, Tap Rack Tactical. And so I thought, man, I probably need a logo or some shit, but I'm not a very creative dude like that. So I put out a deal on Facebook just saying, hey, man, if any of you sons of bitches want to draw something and it's cool,
as long as there's no dicks on it or anything.
Then I'll, if I accept your design, I'll send you a T-shirt and a hat for free, right? I'll put the logo on it and send it to you. And so a buddy of mine actually came up with the logo that I have on my T-shirts and caps right now. And so I posted it, just, hey, here's the new motherfucking Tap Rack logo. Well, she sees it and sends me a message. She says, hey, if you haven't already spent a whole lot of money on that, on T-shirts and hats with that logo, I fucking hate it. If you have, then it's awesome, right? And so I was like, God damn it. So So I said, oh, well, what the fuck, you know? And she's like, well, you know, I can draw you something. I can do something that's specific and personal to your philosophy, and you know, blah, 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 but let's talk about it. So I'm like, okay. So we end up doing a phone call, and it's, you know, there's questions about what's your guiding philosophy, and what is your, you know, fucking goal, and what is, you know, for the student, where are you trying to drive them to, you know? I'm like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
All this new age bullshit. So I said, you know what, all I want is, you know, something bitching like a fucking tiger with a grenade in his mouth and fucking lightning bolts and, you know, tomahawk shit back.
That's not too
some
much
badass shit. And so she's like,
right.
okay, well, it's obvious you aren't into this today, so let's just be done. We'll talk about it later.
Obviously, you're not interested in a serious conversation right now.
Yeah. Whatever. So I hang on, well, what the fuck, right? Well, she takes all the stupid shit that I had said and draws the motherfucking tiger up. And she goes, what do you think of this, right? She's trying to be funny back at me. And I'm like, as soon as I saw it, I heard Angel singing. I was like, oh, that's it, man. That's exactly it. So I sent her a picture of my helmet, and she put the helmet and the night vision on it as an after deal. They originally had an explosion behind them, but when I tried to so the stickers have the explosion going on behind the tiger, and then when I tried to make that into a patch, it's just too much color and activity. So Nancy Stevens from Tough Products was like, hey, we're going to have to adjust this. What do you think of a nuke cloud? I can make that on a patch. So I said, okay, that's perfect. Let's do that. Now I hand stickers out like they're going out of style, but the patches, you have to earn them. So when you come to a pistol class, you have to shoot my standards, and if you pass them, then you get the tiger patch. And the same thing with carbine, the night vision courses. If you do some miracle shit in a hostage rescue class, I'll give you a patch for just doing some good, really cool shit in the middle of a hostage rescue, those kind of things. So they're all earned, with the except my teammates. When I retired, my last mission, which was the Thursday before I retired, I gave everybody on my team one because they had done plenty of shit to help me out over my career, so I felt it was appropriate to award them a tiger patch. That's what it is. So all those thumbs down is all those classes had failed to meet standards at the end of the class. None of them.
I saw somebody post on there. They said was Blowers smoked all of us. On what they were replying to somebody. I thought it was funny.
All of them are passable, which makes it really frustrating. You know what I mean? And like in the 2-day pistol class, you will shoot every single one of those standards probably multiple times. This, that, the other thing. And guys, everybody passes them. Everybody passes them, right? But there's 10 drills that I have, and so for each class, I randomly pull 4 of them out of a hat. And then you got to shoot those 4 drills. So it changes every single class. But the suck is you have to shoot them all in succession without failing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So stringing it all together is really tough. The individual drills are not that terrible as a standalone thing. I mean, you can't, there's very little room for error, which is the other component. So when guys fail them, it's terribly frustrating because they go, well, fuck, I know I can do that. And you know what I mean? And they can. They've proven that they can, but they just didn't do it when it mattered. So guys really want that goddamn patch just so they can fuck off.
Sure.
Well, Street Warrior Radio appreciates the patches you're about to send us.
yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So switching gears a little bit, are there any books or movies that have had an impact on your life for the positive?
Yeah, man. I try to read quite a bit now. I try to rotate through just to keep it interesting for me. I've always been a reader. I don't know why. But I switched between fiction, nonfiction. And so there's certainly been some leadership books that have been very, very good. I thought, just off the top of my head, probably the first time that I was exposed to something that was specific and mattered to me, and I felt like the dude was kind of speaking to me with all of the, not just fucking lip service, but actually showing me was Paul Howe's book, Leadership and Training for the Fight.
Yeah.
And then I went through Paul's team leader school back in the day. I went through Paul's hostage rescue school with our team. And the dude, everything in that book, Paul personified it for me at that time. Does that make sense? He was absolutely living the shit he was talking. So
for real quick, for people who don't know who Paul Howe is,
retired Master Sergeant Delta Force, assaulter, Black Hawk Down incident, is what kind of got him his fame. But really a really solid guy. I've always had nothing but good things to say about that guy. And he tuned me up even. I fucked up as a host for the team leader. I had fucked up and double booked some shit, and my man got all in my ass I thought I was going to get beat up that day. And you would think that would be something that it would make you hate the guy, right? But he was right and I was wrong. So who the fuck am I to do anything but just say, roger that, I'll get it squared away. And I got it squared away, and I think he appreciated the fact that I didn't cry about it. So, great book. Kyle Lamb's book, Leadership in the Shadows.
Another Delta guy.
And I've been to Kyle's leadership seminar. In fact, we hosted it at my organization. I went to an open seminar and thought, man, this dude is on time. And so we hosted him in, and everybody in my organization went through that training, and then we had a couple open classes. And I think very highly of that guy as well. Now, if I saw Paul today, or if I saw Kyle today, they probably wouldn't know who the fuck I am. But I don't give a fuck about that, right? The fact that they did have an impact and an impression on me as both a leader and a guy trying to do a job well, I think is what matters.
Sure.
Yeah, that John Crystal's book has been a recent read that was good. I think Jocko Willink, with
the man,
No Excuse Leadership. I think he's involved in that book, but I could be fucked up. Just any of that kind of shit, right? Where it's working leaders trying to show you examples through their life of when they fucked things up and when things went very well. And it's always
the
been
best way to learn.
In my mind that players win games and coaches lose them. So anytime on the SWAT side, if there's been something that's fucked up, that is directly my goddamn fault. And the time that the team has done well has been a direct result of the guys and their professionalism and dedication and doing what they need to do at the right moment in time. And it wouldn't have mattered if I was there or not, because they were just the right fucking dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jocko's Extreme Ownership and
Extreme Ownership. That's the book. Yeah.
Discipline Equals Freedom are they've had huge impacts on me.
Yeah,
and I'm an avid listener to his podcast, and that dude's amazing. But
Yep. There's one more. Those are directly relative to what I was doing for job, right, in public targeting. But there's another book, and I'm losing my. Yeah, I need to take some fucking echinacea. This problem with getting old. But there's a ranger that wrote a book, but he was a ranger, then got out and started a very successful side business. And he talks about how ranger principles and leadership principles and character traits pushed him to be a successful small businessman. That was also good. I can't think of the fucking name of it off the top of my head right now.
If you think about it, give us a shout. I'd like to read that book.
I'll try to research it, and if I can find it, I'll put it in our show notes. Yeah.
So, quick question: if you were asked to speak at a police academy graduation, what is something that you would tell the cadets that were graduating?
I think that there's so much shit, right? And we've already talked about a lot of that, man. Remember what your task is, and take care of fucking victims, right? I wrote a little deal on Facebook a while ago. My buddy Matt Jaques had written or he had posted something about what do they taste like. Do you guys remember that?
No.
So Matt wrote this thing. Matt was a copper, medically retired. I think he got squished by a DUI driver with his backup, so he had to quit law enforcement. But
Jesus.
He's an outstanding trainer. Guy knows what the fuck is up. But he posted some shit about new guy, the old burly sergeant, and the new guy. And the new guy was trying to impress him, and he did something good, and was all proud of himself. And the sergeant said, basically, shut the fuck up. You don't even know what they taste like. And so this guy's going, what the fuck is he talking about? What does what taste like, right? And so you go through the story. At the end of it, what the thing that he's talking about is tears. What the fuck do tears taste like, right?
Yeah.
And so I read that, and of course you start fucking reminiscing about shit. But I recall, as a young dude on Graveyard, I was all about the jazz, man. I just wanted to arrest every motherfucker out there, right? And so just getting after it and flying around and trying to, stop everything and do all that shit. And I remember driving past or down the street, and there was a young girl walking on the street. And I remember checking her out, right? Who the fuck is this kind of a deal? And she's not crying or none of that kind of crap, but she kind of looks scared, right? And she appears to be an adult. She's not like a little kid, right? She's like an 18, 19-year-old girl, but she kind of looks scared. And I thought to myself, that's weird. That don't belong out here right now. You know what I mean? She's clearly not a street mope. She's not a prostitute. She's none of those things. Right. Why the fuck is she out here? But in addition to that, she also does not look like a crook. And so I am not interested in her right now. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
And so I kept on motoring down the road and looking for shit to fuck with and, criminals to catch and do all that shit. And then I get, beep, 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 Kent units, armed robbery, victim stabbed, both suspects running in this direction. And so I'm, of course, everybody's, I'm en route. It's in my beat. So I'm headed to that thing as the primary. And, K9 is coming. So I want to go run with K9 and go capture these bastards. And I get to the scene, and it's that girl. And two dudes had jumped out. One of them stabbed her in the face, and the other one slashed her face and stabbed her in the stomach. And the end result of the investigation is they had jumped out and said, "Hey, bitch, what are you doing? Whatever, give us your money." She gave them the $3 that she had, and then they still fucking stabbed and cut her. And we never caught those dudes. And I that had a pretty good impact on me as a young officer, and I guess kind of made me remember what my oath was, which was to serve and protect. And how much would it have hurt me to stop that night and just say, hey, ma'am, what are you doing? What is going on?
Right.
And if I would have done that, then I would have found out that her and her sister had gotten into an argument. Sister kicked her out of the car and said, "You can walk your ass home from here if you're going to be a bitch about it." And so she climbed the fuck out in a fit of anger, and her sister took off to let her walk home. And if I'd have found that, probably the result would have been, okay, well, let's give you a ride home and get you off the street. And then nothing would have ever come of that. Since I would have got her in the car and, hey, started mileage with a female courtesy transport, blah, blah, blah. I'm off miles. Here you go. And have a good night, ma'am. And that's it. And she would have never thought twice about that dumb cop, and I would have never thought twice about her ass again. But the desire to, I guess, catch every crook on the street clouded my judgment a little bit on that one. And so, just remember what the fuck you're trying to do, man. What you signed up to do is a thing. And then the other thing that I would tell, and I tell new cops when I was a training sergeant, was, man, in my state, your retirement age is 53. And so I was telling them, you got a PT till you're 53, dude. That physical fitness piece is huge. You're at a certain level right now, otherwise you wouldn't have graduated from the academy. So at the very least, maintain it. And it gets tough, right? You're in FTO, and then you're bouncing shifts, and then you got a young family, and then you got this, that, the other thing, and all of that stuff will start to drive into your PT time. But I ain't trying to be, pose on the cover of Men's Health magazine. I'm trying to keep my brains right. It's a career, right? I'm trying to keep all of the things that we know about physical fitness and your ability to think, your mitigation of injury and illness, your ability to handle and manage stress, sleep deprivation. All of those things are exponentially higher when you are maintaining a level of physical fitness. So fucking do something, because sitting in the car, 10 hours a day and eating shitty fast food and doing that crap will take its toll on you. And then before you know it.
Oh, yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
You're going to be a
Absolutely.
45-year-old fat guy with diabetes and heart disease, and it's really fucking tough to recover from it at that point. So just fucking maintain it. Just maintain it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You brought up the story. And so I had, I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I had one where it was like, it was kind of the opposite of your situation, where it was like I had been working a shit ton of overtime and I was just burned out and I was tired. So I'm sitting in this parking lot and I'm fucking around on my phone. I'm like, I've done enough today, right? And I'm sitting there messing around on my phone. And while I'm messing around on my phone, this girl approaches me and she's just staring at me. And I take a closer look at her and I notice that she's got blood running down in between her legs. She just had a shirt on. And as it turned out, while I was sitting there on my phone fucking around, she had been on the opposite side of this parking lot in a field, and she had been raped and sodomized at knife point. And that took a massive toll on me. To this day, I think about her because I was like, well, if I had stayed true to what I had normally done up to that point and not just decided to fuck off, that maybe I would have been actively patrolling. Maybe my car being over on the other side or being present may have prevented that, And so I get it. And, working for a large urban agency like I did before, I've got several stories like that, which leads me into, it's interesting you brought that up because it kind of leads me into, and I wasn't planning on asking this question, but PTS and law enforcement. And you see now, like, I think I read a thing the other day that law enforcement suicides are exceeding line of duty deaths.
They've gone up.
How how have you managed to deal with the darkness? I mean, I know you said before, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but if not you, then other cops. So is there advice you would give other cops that are going through things and seeing these horrible things and they're not really sure how to process it?
Man, yeah, dude. I think we can take lessons from the military, right? And the realization that this shit does have an impact and an effect. An organization like Warriors Heart that are specific to military veterans, cops and firefighters, first responders that have been through some horrific shit. That they exist for a fucking reason. And then within your organization, you have resources. I don't know if maybe it's still the same way. I don't know. Certainly when I got hired on, everything was about proving you weren't a candy ass.
Yep.
But fuck, man, our chaplain is dynamite, and that has nothing to do with whether you're a religious man or not. The dude always has an open door to talk about some shit. He can give you resources to go talk to folks. Your human resources division has those things. I think as a supervisor, I looked for some of those things, right, where a dude, my good buddy, a young that I have a lot of respect for and like, unfortunately just 2 days ago pulled a child out of a pond and he did CPR on a dead kid. And that, it's all those things, right? So I checked in with him today and, hey, man, how you doing? And he said, yeah, I'm doing good, took some time, whatever the fuck. And so I think leadership has to look at some of that stuff. And if you start to see a guy that, where demeanor changes, there's a reason for that. Now the guy's pissed off. Well, what the fuck changed when he was always had before? The guy's now all sick leave all the time. Well, what the fuck is making that happen? When he hasn't been sick before. Maybe he's just sick, right? It's none of my fucking business if he doesn't want to tell me about it, but
could be.
Potentially is mentally sick, right? Where it's just the thought of coming to work makes him sick. Sure. Those types of things, man. And like I said, I have been, I certainly have not seen there are cops that have seen a whole lot of traumatic shit, way more than I have. I remember on one graveyard rotate, one of my mates getting dispatched to 3 different SIDS deaths. And you're just like, fuck, man, my man is pulling some shitty cards out of the deck. You know what I'm saying? But that's the nature of the beast, right? Sometimes it's just luck of the draw what you end up experiencing and seeing. But it does take a toll, man. And I think we got to be bigger boys and girls about it. We got to recognize that talking through those things isn't a sign of mental weakness. It just is what the fuck it is, and all that shit.
No, it's natural.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, people are going to want to kick me in the balls about this. Try to listen to what the fuck I'm trying to say versus what comes out of my mouth. A guy with no kids would probably react differently to a dead kid than a guy who has kids that are the exact same fucking age and gender as the dead kid he's looking at. Does that make sense?
I agree. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? My kids are all fully grown adults now, and so my ability to handle a small child being injured, fucked up, and it changes as years go on. You know what I'm saying? Every cop has been to an abused kid with green stick injuries or skull fractures or being fucking starved to death or living in shitty conditions, those things have to have a fucking impact on you if you're a human being.
Yeah, if you have a heart at all.
If you're in this business, for sure.
There's no getting around it, dude. And so like I said, sometimes I wonder if there's something weird about me, the ability to just cut away from that stuff. But it comes up. You just mentioned that the incident I talked about. There were times I drive past that same street and I think about that girl. Mm-hmm. This shit was 12 years ago. Culmination of shit. You're hearing your mates go to another abuse call, and then that makes you start thinking about the fucked up calls that you've been on. Yeah, you know what I mean? It all triggers shit, and then you start going down that path. So it's tough, man. I would hope every organization has resources, and I would hope that as a profession we have gotten over the machismo, stupid fucking shit about thinking a guy that needs to go talk about crap is somehow mentally weaker than we are, because your day's coming, bro.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think it still exists, but not to the extent it used to. But and I've watched it change, and just I've been in law enforcement for 12 years now, and I've watched it change in the 12 years, and it's a great thing that it's changing.
Yep, I agree.
All right, last couple questions. What you got coming up? What kind of projects you got coming up? And go ahead and Plug it away.
So just a ton of training. I'm leaving on Sunday for Wisconsin, which is new turf for me. I'm going to stay there for 2 weeks, run a basic SWAT class, a SWAT team leader class, and then the LE night vision course. And then it's, the rest of the year is pretty much the same. I'm trying to, I went 40 classes booked for this year. Before I retired, I've achieved that. Some of those are going to end up canceling like they always do, just low enrollment or whatever the hell pops up kind of a deal.
Sure.
So that I'm interested in. I got a couple of things in the works with product that is coming out or will be coming out soon that I'm pretty excited about. Things that I think will make life easier for a couple of dudes. So that part is interesting and intriguing to me. It's not just the tactics piece. It's, I guess, expanding the business in a different direction. The production of a physical product is unusual to me, right? That's just I've had some good fucking ideas in the past, but I've never acted on them. And so now I'm at the point where I'm acting on one that is a completely my idea, and then a second one that's in collaboration with Rich Mason from Darcy. And so we're working on that thing together, and I'm pretty excited about that shit. I'm doing some writing, some shit. So I wrote an article for UN 12 magazine, its inaugural issue. Got a couple things going on with Recoil and some other magazines. So trying to be that guy. And I like both those venues, by the way, UN 12 and Recoil. They kind of just let you write the way you talk. So, you don't have to do the lofty bullshit. You just talk to dudes.
Sure.
You talk to dudes. And I think that's what intrigued me about writing for both those magazines. So that's cool. And then I think looking at, just some of the strategic partnership stuff that, like I said, me and my partner back in the day started a business, and we were both in there. And that, of course, comes with conflicts when, I think you should go left, and he's saying, well, you should go right. So within our little business, we're having some turmoil. And I think the smarter method is kind of some of the shit that I've done with Chuck Pressburg, where the class is too big, so Chuck comes and helps me, and vice versa. Now you both of our perspectives, and I think the personality is right for that, where I don't care. If Chuck wants to, it's my class, and Chuck is helping me AI, and he wants to interject some information, then I got to be okay with him doing that and recognize he has expertise and experience too.
Sure.
But you got to meet the right guys to make that happen. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And so looking at some of that shit and how do you leverage all of that different experience and shit within the training community to get guys the best overall package is pretty exciting shit. And so trying to figure out how that is going to come together is cool. And then I think continuing to work with industry pros, man. Some of the I'm doing, like I said, shit with B.E. Myers and great company, great people up there. They're putting out the best laser device on the fucking planet right now. And so that's easy, right? it's an easy company to be associated with when their values are similar to yours, and it's something that I would be using regardless of the association. Just makes it easy. So trying to develop and work some of those things, being selective of people in the industry that you want to work with and lend your team to, and vice versa, is also an interesting thing to be working on. So I guess just that.
Sure.
Getting on street motherfucking Warrior Radio and shit.
That's
right.
what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yep.
So where can people find you at? Where can they find you on the interwebs?
So the website is www.tap-rack.com. Check that shit out. There's a calendar on there. If you click the calendar, you can scroll down and you'll see everything that's coming up. Region, that kind of a deal. Or if you want to host a class, which is, I've always, with cop agencies, if you host my training, you get 2 free spots. So I'm trying to give back to those organizations that are willing to let me come in and use their facilities.
That's a good deal.
Training. So hit me up on that shit. And then on Facebook, either the business, which is Tap Rack Tactical, or me specifically, Bill Blowers. Both are kind of one and the same now, in my opinion. So either one of those will work. And then on Instagram, Tap Rack Tactical. And be looking for that stuff. So all the things, I'll answer them. If you shoot me a message, I'll answer it, do all that kind of crap, and get back to you as soon as I can.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome, man.
Well, brother, we really appreciate you being on the podcast, and definitely hope to have you back.
Right on, man. I appreciate it too, man. It was good talking to you guys. I think good topics. I had a good time with it, so I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks, man. We appreciate
you.
Word.
So we want to thank Bill Blowers for being on the podcast.
Is an amazing guy.
Amazing
Appreciate
dude.
him.
Tap-Rack Tactical. .com.
.com.
Go check him out. Go check out the calendar. Get into some of his classes.
We're gonna definitely go get in some of his classes.
He's got a lot. He's got a lot of good things. So
that was a good episode. I had fun.
Yeah, good time.
Good time.
A lot of experience.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Answered a lot of our questions.
Right.
So JC, where can they find us?
Oh, you're gonna flip the roles.
Boom.
Oh man.
Ow.
Ouch. Ouch. I don't know.
You do know.
All right. Yeah, you can find us at, of course, the website.
No, you can find us on Instagram.
No, I'm doing this.
No, I'm doing this. Is my bit.
Fine, whatever. About time you recognize that.
Wow.
Go ahead.
You know what? I'm not going to get into this with you today. You've changed. I don't know who you are. So you can find us on the internet at streetwarriorradio.com. You can find us on Instagram at streetwarriorradio. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spreaker. We are now on Spotify, and check my SoundCloud. We're doing that now.
But just so you know, caveat to SoundCloud.
You're only going to get the last 2 episodes that we've done.
Only because I refuse to pay.
Yeah, only because listen, if you want us to put all the episodes on SoundCloud, go to Amazon Click-Through. Amazon Click-Through. It all comes back to Amazon. I'm pretty sure Amazon was started at the beginning of time. That's why it's Prime.
So the last on SoundCloud, you'll be able to get the last 2 episodes.
So you'll be able to get this episode that we're about to come out with, and
then Mike the
Cop episode. So you can also find us on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. STRT, the word warrior, RDIO.
RDIO. Yep, you can find us. I mean, we're everywhere. I'm about to change the game on the Instagram. It's about to go crazy. We're about to go viral.
Yeah, and you know what? I realized the other day, I didn't even know this, but I guess Facebook has stories also. So I'll figure that out.
You know what? Listen, with Mark Zuckerberg?
Yes.
Yo, I'm done with Facebook crazy.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
They sold all your information. Not me, because I'm not on that crap. But they sold all your information.
If they didn't, somebody else already has.
This is true. Nobody wants my information. People probably get my information and they laugh and they feel bad for me.
Oh, they can't go very far with my information.
No.
So
forget Mark Zuckerberg. No, him and Jeff Bezos deserve one another. That's right, Jeff. I'm talking to you, Jeff.
We're on to you, Jeff.
I'm on to you. If you got something to say, Jeff, come on the podcast.
And if you got something to say to us, you can contact us at streetwarriorradio.com/contact or on that email at info@streetwarriorradio.com. Send us your comments, questions, and war stories.
Boom.
And
we're working on some guests. I got some people lined up. I'm talking to some people. I'm not going to drop any names, Floyd Mayweather, but it could be happening. No, it pretty much could be happening.
We'd have to pay him like $1 million just to come. He will not.
He would do it.
That man doesn't do anything free. He doesn't take a shit for free.
You don't know what Floyd. First of all, I'm in talks with Floyd.
The Floyd doesn't even know who you are.
Yes, he does. We're in talks, major talks.
Oh God!
Ask about me. I'm in these streets.
Right.
I bees in the trap. Bees in the trap.
Website, events page now added. Calendar, upcoming events, episode schedule, any events that we're going to participate in or we would like you to participate in, they will be on there with as much information as we can muster and get on there, plus resources to do more research, and also if there's some sort of event where you got to purchase tickets or training, there will be links to that.
And we're about to put a PayPal up, so y'all can just start giving us money.
Yeah, you can just start throwing it.
Money into PayPal.
Yep.
Support the podcast. Donate. Click here.
I think that's pretty much it.
That's all I got.
Is it?
Yeah, with that, Street War Radio's out.
But before we go,
salute.
Gratitude.
Go ahead.
Men and women.
Tell them.
Armed forces.
That's what I'm talking about.
Appreciate
Everybody
you
except
guys.
the Coast Guard.
Appreciate you.
Y'all aren't real military. DOD.
Wow. They are a real
Thank
military.
the DOD. Shout out the DOD.
The Coast Guard is a real branch.
They're not.
They are.
They're not.
They are. My brother-in-law might think differently.
What's he gonna do? Fight me? All I gotta do is throw some sand down. He's gonna be like, "Oh, lava."
Stupid. All right.
No, shout out my people in the Coast Guard. I love y'all too.
They do a cool job.
Yeah,
they do a cool job.
I don't know about cool, but they do a job.
They get to board boats and find narcotics and shit.
Oh, look at me. Cool. I'm a pirate. Look at me. I'm Jack Sparrow. I'm in the Coast Guard. Whatever.
What are you doing with your life right now?
Me?
Yeah.
Not a whole bunch.
So, all right then.
Not a whole bunch.
All right. Anyway.
I served in a real branch of the military. Okay, sir?
With Army. That, I'd like to thank the men and women of our armed forces for everything they do,
even
for keeping
the
us
Coast Guard.
safe. Even the Coast Guard.
Appreciate y'all.
for this episode especially.
Maritime
This episode is
service.
dedicated to the United States Coast Guard.
Don't do that to them.
Yes.
No one. No. Psst. Don't do
It's
it to them.
dedicated to them.
Shout out the Navy.
The men and women of the Coast Guard. Anyway, to our first responders, police, fire, paramedics, thank you for what you do, keeping us safe on the home front. Remember your oath, do the right thing, and everything will be fine.
Real quick, I
yeah.
like something Bill said too.
Yes.
Help the victim. Like that's real. Like that's
Yeah.
really what you got in this for. EMS,
Absolutely.
paramedic,
Yeah.
police officer, firefighter, help the victim. Like that's really what you're there for.
Yep.
So remember that. I think those were some good words he dropped. Those were some nice jewels.
Sometimes you got to take your own BS out of the equation
Yeah.
and remember what you're there for.
Yep,
That's
the
absolutely right.
victim.
To the families of our military and first responders, thank you for everything you do, the sacrifices that you make, and to all the rest of the people out there that make the world go around, thank you for what you do. You make everything worth fighting for. And with that, Street Warrior Radio is out of service.